guys. Seems like we've got some new stuff happening with Sarah Boone. Of course, we all knew this was going to happen. She wants a new trial. Now, let's try to guess and see what are the merits of her, I don't know, asking for a new trial. I know Mr. Owens had an issue with the family of George Torres crying in the back. I think it was the mother that was crying when the suitcase video was played, and they paused it. They left it up on the screen, and it was too much for her. And she and her family, they left the courtroom. James Owens was like, I want a new trial. And the judge was like, no, denied. I think that was the one where the judge denied it so fast. There was also the one with, I think it was Dr. Werner's testimony. So Mr. Owens was trying to say that prosecution, there's a discovery violation here, and Dr. Werner is saying something different than what she had said in deposition. If there was something new to be added, she's supposed to contact the attorneys, contact me, and let us know. And she never did that. So the judge fixed that by having an in-court deposition where Mr. Owens was able to ask Dr. Werner about her opinions without the jury being present. And then when he was done with the deposition, they're just like, okay, well, that cured the issue, and let's bring the jury back in. We'll continue with the trial. So those are the two. And then what are the issues that Mr. Owens have with, what else was there? Wasn't there another part where he said there was prosecutorial misconduct? Or were those the two? I think those are two. That's what I remember. All right, y'all, but I hope you guys are doing well. Hello. And then also additionally, I checked in and looked at what else is being uploaded to the court's website. Seems like we got a deposition. I like reading depositions because sometimes the depositions, not all the information in the deposition makes it into a courtroom, into the trial for the jury to hear. So I want to read the deposition, and I'm assuming this is the reason why Mr. Owens is attaching deposition, because again, he had an issue with Dr. Werner and her testimony at the trial. And it's not that long, so we're going to read it. But I hope you guys are doing well. I had a very long car ride, like a 4 to 5 hour car ride. And I was hunched over the entire time because I was typing my notes for the Delphi case. And I think I screwed up my shoulder blades. My back was like this the entire time. And I think it was too tense and I didn't stretch. So now there is incredible amount of pain just in like my lower middle or the middle back area, which I'm going to have to stretch it out and ice it later or something. Cause it's a little bit painful, but it's because I was way too hunched like this. It was not a good position, but is anyone here? Are you guys reading about the Delphi stuff? Holy shit. The Delphi stuff, I definitely want to cover. Now, it's one of those cases where there's no live court stream, which is very, very disappointing, but I hope they will release the audio recordings from the court at least, but I don't know if that's going to happen. The Delphi stuff is like really crazy. So I've been like listening to different sources, and I don't know, I want to make a video about it. I kind of want to talk about it. I think it's really fucking important. Hey, Go Lucky, how are you doing today? How's it going? I hope you're doing well. Hi, Kurt. Hi, Taxi. Yeah. Rain, Patty Cat. Morning from Australia. Worth being up at 5 a.m. Oh, Patty, thank you so much for waking up so early. Rubens is here. Brian is here. Cassie, hello. Oh, man. Go Lucky says, hey, YouTube. Oh, let me get my water bottle. It's cold in here, and we don't have, I'm not turning on the heat, so it is a little bit chilly in here, but it helps to have a nice little hot water with you. Keep you warm. Oh, so warm. November. Ooh, I am a November baby as well. I don't know if my birthday lands on Thanksgiving this year. It might. Or no, Thanksgiving I think is on, I think it's like late 28th or something. But yeah, happy early birthday. I hope you're doing well. Hello, Anonymity. How are you doing today? How's it going? Who are we talking about? We're talking about Sarah Boone. Miss Sarah Boone. So Miss Sarah Boone, her sentencing is in less than a month. It's going to happen on December 2nd. Less than a month. Time is going by pretty fast. All right, y'all. So let's read about this file that was actually filed by Mr. James Owens on behalf of Sarah Boone. Let's see what he wants. Let's see what his demands are. Because my guesses were the issue with having George's family reacting to the video. Mr. Owens was like, I don't know, man, something weird is going on. The family is sitting next to the lead investigators. And I think he was trying to say somebody arranged it in that way to sabotage somehow, I guess, maybe. And maybe it was the state that did that. But the judge denied that motion for a new trial. And then the other one that I brought up was, the issue with Dr. Werner's testimony. Okay. Hi, Richie. How are you doing today? Hey, Salsa. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hi, Bleep. How's it going? I saw your message with the Trader Joe saying, I want to see pictures. Sparkling tea, non-alcoholic. Looks cool. Looks cool. Looks cool. Is it sugary or is it just right? Also, are you guys okay with this background? I don't know. Sometimes I like having sunlight coming in. It makes my background a little too bright, but I don't know. Sunlight equals happiness for my eyes. Do I really think that she can get this motion granted? Let's see. I haven't taken a look at it yet. We'll see. All right. So, Mr. Owens, here's the thing. Mr. Owens, is he going to attach any? Okay. We got case law in here. All right. Brian Bradley, thank you so much for the 999. Thank you so much. I wish I found you so many trials ago. This is the best. Thank you. Well, people always be committing crimes, and there's many more trials in the future. Now, I'm catching up on all the trials that we've been neglecting because of Sarah Boone stuff. So I've been catching up with Koberger this morning. Karen Reed had one yesterday for the appellate court arguing, because, she's like, I don't want to go to trial again. Like, this is nonsense. But yeah, we're catching up with a lot of the stuff that I used to cover previously. And a lot of the stuff that I covered before, I stopped covering it because sometimes the audio or the video would be really bad in the courtroom. And I would get kind of like annoyed about that. And then sometimes they would have like hearings that were sealed. And I was like, oh, God, that's annoying. So I definitely want to start covering those again. And I don't know. Right now, though, I am thoroughly very much I'm just sucked into the Delphi stuff right now. The Delphi stuff has gotten my attention. So I've been typing up on my notes, and I'm going to go back and rewatch some footages. Because initially when I watched the Delphi stuff, I was just watching it just for, just to kind of like understand what's going on. Then I was like, damn, this shit's like, I need to take notes on this. So I'm going to rewatch a lot of the videos and then go back and take some notes. Rubens, thank you so much for the $9.99. Thank you. That's our first super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate the little lemon dude thing. Is that the lemon guy from Adventure Time? Yes, sunlight equals happiness. Yeah, I just want a little bit of sunlight in here. Just a little bit of sunlight. All right, y'all. So what do we got here? Defendant's motion for a new trial. Should I put on my glasses? I will, actually, because we have a deposition to read today, and it'll be easier with glasses. Comes now to the defendant Sarah Boone by and through counsel. Oh, what I was saying earlier before I got cut off, I was like, oh, let's see if there's case law in here. Because, before we had all the pre-trial arguments and stuff, Mr. Owens would make an argument, and it's like, where's the case law that supports this? Mr. Owens, are you going to be attaching an addendum or something like that? All right, defendant's motion for a new trial comes now to defendant Sarah Boone by and through counsel pursuant to Rule 3.600 Florida Rules of Criminal Procedure files this motion for a new trial, stating in support thereof of the following. Number 1. Defendant was found guilty as charged of second-degree murder on October 25th, 2024. Yeah, it seems like Mr. Owens, Sarah Boone was in shock. He said Sarah Boone was in shock, and I think they thought Sarah Boone was going to get maybe manslaughter if it wasn't going to be acquittal. It seems like she was very, very surprised that the jury decided to convict her of second-degree murder. Are you guys surprised, though? 3. The defendant asserts... Oh, did I skip number 2? I skipped number 2. 2. This instant motion is timely filed pursuant to Rule 3.600. The defendant asserts that she's entitled to a new trial under Rule 3.6 under following grounds. I. The court erred in the ruling the defendant was not entitled to court-appointed counsel. Okay, but she ended up having you represent her. I. The court erred in denying undersigned's counsel multiple motions for continuance. I mean... You knew what you were getting into. Man, yeah, Mr. Owens did say that he really thought the judge was going to give him a continuance. Mr. Owens was like, damn, I didn't expect the judge to deny my motion. Kind of sucks. I have a little time to prepare for this. Triple I. The court erred in failing to grant a new trial when the alleged victim's family, interesting way to phrase that, caused an emotional outburst in open court in the presence of the jury prior to deliberations. I mentioned this. 4. The court... Hold on a second. Ignored what I was saying earlier, okay, about I and triple I's. Just ignore me. The court trial failed to disallow the opinion testimony of the state's rebuttal expert witness, Dr. Tanya Werner, MD, after the state failed to disclose before the trial that the witness had formed a new opinion. I was watching some Delphi stuff, and they were naming their exhibits like triple Z's, triple A's, and stuff like that. So I think that was just kind of like stuck in my mind. Please ignore. I do know my Roman numerals. 5, the state. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Let me just repeat 4. The trial court failed to disallow the open testimony of the state's rebuttal expert witness, Dr. Tanya Werner, after the state failed to disclose before trial that the witness had formed a new opinion. But again, that was fixed by having a in-court deposition done, and that was done. And then he continued asking Dr. Tanya Werner her opinions when the jury was brought in. 5. Oh, hello, Christine. How are you doing today? Hello, Kevin. Is everyone doing anything to get off? Happy Thursday. Hello, hello. Hope you guys are all doing well. Been missing you guys. It's been a while since we streamed. Alrighty, 5. The state committed prosecutorial misconduct by essentially making a second closing argument instead of a rebuttal. This wasn't raised, was it? I don't remember Mr. Owens raising this unless they had a sidebar about this. I don't remember him raising this. Law and argument number 1. The trial court erred in holding the defendant was not entitled to a court-appointed counsel. Okay, let's see what he has to say about this. Because remember, the judge, went over this extensively, that Miss Boone forfeited her right to court-appointed counsel because of her behavior. In the above-stated numbered case, the defendant had approximately 7 court-appointed attorneys prior to the undersigned counsel taking her case. Undersigned counsel took on the above case because he was concerned that Ms. Boone would not have an attorney to represent her at trial. The above case was very complex, even for a seasoned trial attorney who was the public defender for the First Judicial Circuit for years, as well as having a thriving private practice. I feel like there's like a little mini ad right here. Hey guys, I'm the public defender of the First Judicial Court for years, and I have a thriving practice. You guys are interested. It is apparent to undersigned trial counsel that Ms. Boone will be grossly ill-prepared and unequipped to handle the trial in this matter, and in fact, to handle any other phase of the trial without counsel. Yep, we definitely saw that in action. Both the Sixth Amendment as well as Rule 3.111, Florida Rules of Criminal Procedure, guarantee an indigent defendant the right to appointed counsel. See Bowden v. State, State v. Kelly, progeny. There appears to be 2 exceptions to this precedent. 1, if the defendant physically harms or threatens to harm his or her counsel. 2, if the trial court certifies the defendant will not be incarcerated if found guilty, a judge trial. Should the court determine the defendant is not entitled to a court-appointed counsel due to misbehavior on the part of the defendant, the court must follow a process which protects the individual's right to due process as well as the defendant's right to the assistance of counsel. In this instant case, undersigned trial counsel would assert that Ms. Boone's behavior did not rise to the level of misconduct to warrant a waiver of the right to court-appointed counsel. Something tells me that even though Boone and, Mr. James Owens got into that seemingly heated argument when she was in jail, there was these jail notes about that. Something tells me that Mr. Owens probably didn't get the worst brunt of it. By the time that Mr. Owens got on the case, she probably decided to behave way, way exponentially better than she did to the other attorneys. But does he really know what really happened between the attorneys and Ms. Boone? I don't think so. If the court determines that she waived her right to court-appointed counsel, then the court failed to warn her or inform her that her continued misbehavior will result in the waiver of the right to... Wait, okay, hold on a second. If the court determines that she waived her right to court-appointed counsel, then the court failed to warn her or inform her that her continued misbehavior will result in the waiver of the right to court-appointed counsel. She was given a warning. She was given a warning by the previous judge, Judge Wayne Wooten, and she was given a warning by Judge Kranick. Under controlling precedents, failure of the court to appoint trial counsel can result in a new motion for a new trial being granted. There's some case law. Under controlling precedents, under Rule 3.11, Florida Rules of Criminal Procedure and the Sixth Amendment, defendant and through counsel moves for the court for a new trial. Yeah, good luck on that. Argument number 2. Hello, good morning. Hi, Jellybean. How are you doing today? Hey, Carrie. How's it going? I bet she thinks she could have done a better job. Lol. No way, no way. I think she saw how hard it was to represent herself during the pre-trial stuff, and she was like, this is hard. And I think that's why when Mr. Owens and the rest of the team hopped onto her case pro bono, I think that's why she was a little more, she probably treated them way better, a little more reserved in throwing her, her usual accusations and stuff at her court-appointed attorneys. Argument number 2, the court erred in failing to grant defendant's motion for a continuance made by undersigned trial counsel. The court shall not deprive defendant of his or her right to counsel of their own choice. A failure of the trial court to grant a continuance will result in a new trial should the court deny said motion for continuance by new counsel. Got some case law here. Hey, Rocket. What's up, Jan? How are you doing today? Hello, Moon. How's it going? Hi, CMB. Thanks for popping in and saying hi. Sarah agreed she was happy with her representation. Give it up, Owens. Not gonna fly. In this instant case, when undersigned counsel came on board, the case was 4 years old. Undersigned counsel filed his notice of appearance on August 30th, 2024. This gave counsel 45 days to prepare for the second-degree murder trial. I mean, you knew what you were signing up for. We need to make a t-shirt, 45 days. I like that. 45 days for Mr. Owens. He immediately and aggressively began to prepare for the trial. Undersigned counsel did his best to prepare for trial by traveling to Orlando from Milton on multiple occasions, both for meeting with Ms. Boone and attending multiple hearings. Despite his best efforts to prepare for a new trial, it is impossible to adequately prepare for unforeseen issues arising during trial. A prime example of this would be reviewing hundreds of pages of text from Ms. Boone C's cell phone, reviewing all records of prior contact of Ms. Boone, the alleged victim, with law enforcement, including inadmissible hearsay by the alleged victim to law enforcement regarding Ms. Boone being the aggressor at times. Counsel, for all purposes, closed his law practice down to prepare for the trial, but due to the short time frame, even with the assistance of other attorneys, was simply logistically unable to be as prepared for trial as he would like to be, and as Ms. Boone was entitled to. Under the controlling cases cited supra, the court's failure to grant undersigned counsel's motion for continuance should result in a new trial. Yeah. Good luck with that. Hello, Marco. I have been out of town. I've been out of town, and I was catching up with all the Delphi stuff. It was it's a lot of footages, lots of hours. But the Delphi stuff is very, very, very interesting. Hey, Patty Cat, how's it going today? Yeah, I can't wait to hear the judge's response to this. How fast do you think Judge Kranick is going to respond to this? Well, sorry, before it even gets to Judge Kranick, it has to go to the state, right? And then Judge Kranick. Argument number 3, the court erred when it denied a motion for a new trial due to an emotional outburst in the presence of the jury. Prior to jury deliberations, the alleged victim's family members began to audibly and visibly get upset and departed the courtroom. Undersigned counsel timely moved for a mistrial, requesting a new trial. The court did not give any curative instructions or address whether the outburst could adversely affect the jury's deliberations. I mean, the family members, they decided to leave the courtroom instead of staying there and, continuing being visibly upset, right? They left the courtroom. Sometimes shit like that just happens, right? It's, if I was a family member and I saw the video of George in the suitcase again, it's, he's like, that like, okay, he's going to have another like 10 to 12 hours where he's going to be tortured in the fucking suitcase, just like slowly dying. It's super sad. Florida appellate courts have held that the failure of the court to grant a curative instruction or a mistrial can result in the necessity of granting a new trial. And then also, I believe, because I think it was his mom that was really upset. I think she tried to conceal her being upset by putting her face in her hands. And then I think she was like kind of like in her lap when she was really upset. And at some point, it was probably just too much for her to take. And she was like, I'm going to go outside, go outside the courtroom. Hey, Zuzu, how are you doing today? The court is unable to determine if this outburst affected the jury's decision because no inquiry was made. Under controlling precedents, sometimes I like this word. The defendant is entitled to a new trial. Argument number 4. All right, almost done. The court erred in allowing the opinion of the state's expert not previously disclosed. Okay, Dr. Tanya Werner. The trial court failed to disallow the opinion testimony of the state's rebuttal expert, Dr. Tanya Werner, after the state failed. I have a sneeze coming soon. And I'm like, it's coming or might not come. It's itching my nose. While I wait for my sneeze to come or not come, let me remind you guys who Dr. Tanya Werner is. So Dr. Tanya Werner was the rebuttal expert for Dr. Julie Harper. This doctor right here. this doctor right here. We had a very, very long sidebar, and then we excused the jury. Even more of a longer sidebar, and then or it was an in-court argument, and then without the jury being present, but all of us was able to hear it. And then at some point they took the deposition, in-court deposition of Dr. Harper, and then the jury came back in afterwards. Okay, I guess this sneeze is not coming. It's just gonna annoy me, I guess. Sigourney Weaver. I love Sigourney. Alien. Oh, I haven't seen Alien Romulus yet. The trial court failed to disallow the opinion testimony of the state's rebuttal expert, Dr. Tanya Werner, after the state failed to disclose before trial that the witness had formed a new opinion relating to whether the defendant perceived an imminent threat at the time of her offense. This issue was discussed extensively in the expert's witness's deposition, which we're going to read, taken on October 4, 2024. The state committed prosecutorial misconduct by failing to disclose this new opinion as agreed in this deposition mentioned above. In addition, the state's expert opinion on whether the defendant perceived an imminent threat necessary for the justifiable use of force and battered spouse syndrome testified to before the jury was improper. The state's expert, Dr. Tanya Werner, admitted she had not listened to the defendant's testimony before the jury before forming her opinion on this ultimate issue of fact. Oh, okay. I actually have a lot to say about this. Where should I organize my thoughts? Let me think. Okay. So Dr. Tanya Werner, in her deposition, said that, oh gosh, what was it? It was in regards, I forgot what it was exactly. I'm sure it will come to me. It's one of those things where if I think too hard about it, it escapes me. But if I don't think about it, it'll casually come back to me. Does that ever happen to you guys? But Dr. Tanya Werner said that she wasn't sure about something, and that Mr. Owens was like, okay, well, then why am I taking your deposition? So essentially it was like, okay, well, if you come up with opinion about this, you will contact us, you will contact me, and you will let us know. She never did that. So when she was testifying in the stand, she had an opinion about something, and then James Owens was like, objection, like, what the fuck? You never contacted us. This is a new opinion. I haven't heard about this before. And so we excused the jury, and then they made their in-court argument. And Mr. Owens wanted to have Dr. Tanya Werner excluded completely. Like, okay, don't even have her testify for the case then. This is fucked up. But the judge was like, oh, having her like just completely just like just getting rid of her testimony, that's a little bit too extreme. So instead, in order to fix that, what we'll do is that, yes, I have seen this does seem like a discovery violation, but it wasn't something that was done like, maliciously or like willfully, right? I think he said it was like done like inadvertently. And so because of that, we let Mr. Owens do a in-court deposition when the jury wasn't there. That way he could know what the doctor is going to say, and then we'll question him when the jury is back into the courtroom. Now, do you guys remember how I said that I had issues? I didn't like how Dr. Tanya Werner, when she testified, I felt like she gave some short answers, and I felt like there were some areas where she could have expanded a little bit more for the jury and to better like the understanding, but she just didn't, right? And I was just like, huh. And then also when she was asked about the events of Sarah Boone testifying in the stand, she was asked about, what happened that day with Sarah Boone. She was like, oh, can I look at my notes? And I was like, huh, that's kind of interesting. Like, this is a pretty huge thing about the case. Like, what went down that day. She asked to look at her notes and to refresh. And, they're like, oh, don't read from your notes now. So she wanted to refresh her memory a little bit. And I know there was a lot that happened that day, but I mean, I was just like, okay, well, I don't know. Compared to Dr. Julie Harper, I think she did really well in the stand. I think the other doctor who also testified, I think he did really well in the stand as well. But when Dr. Tanya Werner went up there, I felt like, her answers were kind of like short. Like I like short to the point answers, but sometimes there were moments where felt like she could have expanded more for the jury. And then I felt like she really rushed through the events of, the day where Sarah and George were drinking, and then he went to the suitcase. But then I was like, oh, I went back and watched it. And she mentioned how she didn't watch Sarah Boone's testimony, which I thought was weird. I was like, you didn't watch Sarah Boone's testimony? She didn't watch the testimony. And I think she was just really fucking busy. Like, I think she was busy. I don't think she had like an adequate amount of time to really prepare for the trial. I think she tried to like rush through it and prepare as much as she could. But I think she was like, I think she was just really fucking busy. So that's why when she testified in the stand, to me, it just felt like it was a little bit kind of like, like this doesn't really seem like the best expert testimony that I've seen, but it's not bad, I guess. But I think it was just because she was just like, she had a lot of work to do. She just didn't really have time, and she was just like underprepared, in my opinion. And now it totally makes sense, because now when I look back, was like at her testifying, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I think the reason why she had to refresh on the notes on what happened that day, and the reason why she rushed through it so quickly, was because she probably was just like, didn't have time to prepare. And that makes sense. Now it makes sense. Because I think had she had time to prepare, she probably would have gone down a bit slower. Maybe been a little bit more patient. Because I don't know, maybe she had a lot of shit to do that day. She's like, okay, let me hurry up and do this testimony so I can get the fuck out of here. I felt like she was starting to get a little bit impatient. You saw it in her like facial expressions at times. But anyways, yeah, that's just like a random post thought that I had about the trial. All right, so Dr. Tanya Werner, the state's expert, admitted that she had not listened to the defendant's testimony, which I was like, that's interesting, before forming her opinion on this ultimate issue of the fact. In addition, Dr. Werner failed to listen to the testimony of, Dr. Michael Brandon, Dr. Julie Harper. Yep, she didn't listen to their testimonies as well. And I was like, it's kind of odd, before expressing her opinion. Furthermore, the state's expert testimony on this issue of whether the defendant perceived an imminent threat at the time of the event violates the province of the jury. Witnesses are prevented from expressing their conclusions when the opinion only tells the jury how to decide the case and does not help the jury determine what occurred. Now, Dr. Werner also mentioned that she works at like a clinic that opens like 24/7. She's like super busy, and that's what her main focus is. She doesn't really do expert testimonies in court stuff. Like, I think Dr. Julie Harper, that's all she does, right? But Dr. Tanya Werner actually practices as her main job, and then she'll do like the expert testimonies on the side. So I think she was just really, really, really busy. Witnesses are prevented from expressing their conclusions when the opinion only tells the jury how to decide the case and does not help the jury determine what occurred. When a witness is asked to express an opinion that applies a legal standard to a set of facts, the opinion testimony is generally inadmissible. I'm trying to remember. Applies a legal standard to a set of facts. I think Mr. Owens had issue with her saying whether or not Sarah Boone was like an imminent fear during that time when George poked his fingers out of the suitcase, right? He tried to argue saying that is something for the jury to determine, but the judge overruled that because he said that, she's an expert on this, so she's allowed to talk about that. All right, section 90.703 does not permit a witness to testify to legal conclusions or express an opinion upon questions of substantive law. This testimony may interfere with the function of the trial judge to determine the applicable law and to instruct the jury thereon. Argument number 5, or the last one. The prosecutor committed misconduct by using rebuttal argument to make a second closing argument. I don't remember Mr. Owens objecting during the rebuttal. I don't remember that. Unless it happened during sidebar and we weren't privy to it. The state committed prosecutorial misconduct by essentially making a second closing argument instead of a rebuttal argument. Yeah, that's when Mr. J came out, brought that suitcase, dropped some new information, some facts, and he was like, you don't have to take Sarah Boone's word that... what did he say? You don't have to take her word, that she hit him with a baseball bat while he was inside the suitcase. He thought that the injury showed that possibly George was hit while he was outside the suitcase, and that the area where George would have been hit while being inside the suitcase, there was a very hard, I don't know if it's like a piece of wood or whatever the material they used inside the suitcase, where that would have probably protected him from getting those crazy, deep bruising that he had. Hey, CK, hurting today? Counsel for the state made a second closing argument posed as a rebuttal. And he did a really good job of it. I don't know if he was allowed to, though, but Mr. Owens didn't object. He didn't object at the time. Okay, that is Mr. Owens. Now we wait for the state response, and the judge will make his decision. Man, I hate it when I talk for a long time. My nose gets really stuffed. Hey, Nerdy, how are you doing today? Hey, Corgi crew. Hi, Corgi. If it was hit outside, would have been found. If he was hit outside, they should have found blood splatters. Would have been very hard to clean. I think that the head injuries, the face injuries, probably happened in the suitcase because of the blood. Because then you would want to find blood on the bat as well, right? But I think the injuries to his like back and other parts of his body, I think it's possible it happened outside the suitcase because that didn't break the skin. It just caused like deep bruising. I think the parts that did break skin were like the ones that are like in his head. I remember he had like some, I think there was like some blood under the skin that probably broke out, and that's why he was like bleeding. And then I think his mouth had like blood coming out too as well. But I think the head injuries were probably done while he was in the suitcase because she probably didn't know. I don't know. She probably was just swaying crazily. But I think it's possible that the other injuries may have just happened when he was like outside the suitcase. And those are the ones that didn't break blood. Because then otherwise you would find blood on the baseball bat, and then like you said, like the splatters and stuff like that. All right. This motion is normal, pro forma, nothing to stress about. Yeah, I mean, we expected this. And then, usually they'll, take it up to appellate court as well. So, this is all normal stuff. All right, so next we have the notice of filing. Notice is hereby given that defendant Sarah Boone, by and through undersigned counsel, has filed for the deposition transcript of Dr. Tanya Werner, taken on October 4, 2024. So, like I said, the reason why I want to read this is because sometimes things are mentioned in the deposition that is not mentioned at the trial. So, I just want to see what's up. And then also, let's see what Dr. Tanya Werner said. I mean, they did read this transcript into the court. And you remember how the judge was like, it's 87 pages long. I'm not reading this entire 87-page transcript while the jury's waiting on us. That's not going to happen, Mr. Owens. Because I think Mr. Owens was like reading the transcript page by page, and at some point the judge was like, okay, this is probably not going anywhere. He's just going to continue reading. We're not going to do this. I think he went down the stairs in the suitcase. I would say that was rebuttal because everything he said was combating when he testified. She had testified that she had poked him. The way she showed him was like being gentle. Yeah, the poking thing. Oh my God. Come on. No, there's no way anyone would believe the poking thing. It's like, I mean, he got those bruises, but I was just poking him. I was poking him like this. Like, I'm sorry, but that just doesn't seem like a natural way to use a baseball bat. People would just swing the baseball bat. If you had maybe one of those fireplace pokers, okay, poking motion might be, usual for that one. But with a baseball bat, with you poking it, with all that anger and rage that it seemed like you had that night towards George and the injuries that he had, Poking. All right, y'all. So let's read the depo of Dr. Tanya Werner. Let me get up and stretch really quick. Oh, like I said yesterday, I was taking notes in the car ride back, and I was very hunched like this, and I think that fucked up my my middle back area. We should have stopped somewhere, but I wasn't sure if y'all in a hurry to get home. I was just tired, dude. I was just tired. Usually for car rides, I try to get up and stretch, use a bathroom. But when we got to that first stop at Prim, I was like, I'm so tired. I didn't want to get up and get the donut anymore. Brian Bradley, thank you so much for the 1999. Damn, I have to run to a board meeting. Thank you, Corgi. Hope to be back soon. Have fun at your board meeting. Thank you so much for the 1999. I really appreciate your support. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, someone said hot and steamy. I'm like, what is the context of hot and steamy? Let me see. He ought to be ashamed of himself for his own closing argument. It was a hot, steamy mess. Do we have to use hot and steamy to describe it? When I think of hot and steamy, I think of like, I don't know, something else. Sounds like a 50 Shades of Grey reading. It was hot. It was steamy. Oh, yeah. I was so tired, man. I was hungry though. I was hungry. I was like, man, I want to get a donut, but I'm tired. I think I don't know if you saw me nodding off, but when I was like on my iPad, I was like nodding off a little bit. Hot and steamy. Mr. James Owens and hot and steamy in the same sentence. All right, let's do it. If I watched just a closing argument, I would wonder who was on trial, Owens or Boone. Yeah, Mr. Owens' closing argument. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's just all over the place. It was all over the place. I think he was like a little bit flustered. He tried. I think maybe it would have been best for him to split the closing argument with him and Mr. Henderson, but I don't know why that didn't happen. I think they tried to pitch that. And I think the judge was like, okay, I mean, if you want to, go ahead. We don't normally do it like this, but go ahead. I don't think they had a huge issue with that, if I remember correctly. Dough eat donuts. I make those for a living. You don't know what they're made of. Yeah, it's probably, I mean, it's just like what? Dough, fuck ton of oil, shit ton of butter. I will tell you guys, I've never cooked a Thanksgiving meal before, but last year I decided to. And honestly, I feel like I never want to do it ever again. I didn't realize how much butter is used in Thanksgiving food. So much butter. Holy shit, just sticks and sticks of fucking butter. I love butter, but damn. I can't really have butter anymore, though. But yeah, I was like, the turkey requires lots of butter, the mashed potatoes, we did the sweet potato thing, butter, the green beans thing, butter for everything. Holy crap. All the butter, the turkey. I was like, oh my God, that's so much butter. So much butter. All right, y'all. So, Dr. Tanya Werner. Let's see. Dr. Tanya Werner. The video conference deposition of Dr. Tanya Werner was taken on behalf of the defendant on Friday, October 4th, beginning at 1:04 p.m. and hosted by We're swearing in the witness. Okay, Dr. Tanya Werner, swearing her in. Man, I don't know if I'm ready to reach an 87-page deposition, though. I did it, but it wasn't intentional. Not intentional. Why are we talking about spaghetti? You guys, okay? Now I'm thoroughly distracted. Let me get back into this again. All right. So earlier we covered the motion for a new trial, and now we're gonna read Dr. Tanya Werner's deposition. This is a deposition that Mr. Owens was reading to the court, and judge was like, "I'm not reading an 87-page thing. Hell no, we ain't doing it." Oh, new puppy dinosaur. It took him 12 minutes for about the squeaker. Oh gosh, I have a pile of toys that I'm planning on repairing. I just need to find my little, there's like a little to-go sewing kits that they have at the hotel sometimes. I'm just going to stick all the squeakers back and sew it back up, but I just haven't done it yet. I have not done it yet. Oh, by the way, Stream Elements has reminded me, feel free to join the Discord if you guys like. We do have a true crime section and a non-true crime section. Notifications before I go live, I usually post it on there. And yeah, feel free to join the Discord. This is what happens when you don't stream for a while. You just don't remember how to talk. All right, y'all. Direct examination by Mr. Owens. I can't do Mr. Owens' voice. It's too hard, but I'll try to make it distinguishable between Mr. Owens and Dr. Werner. I mean, it's easy because one's male and one's female, so. All right, Mr. Owens. Dr. Werner? Yes, sir. Yes, this is James Owens again. As you know, I represent Sarah Boone. Yes, sir. Would you please state your full name and spell your last name? My name is Tanya, Tonia, Werner, Werner. And can you give us your address? Here's our address. What is the name of the facility where you work? Meridian Behavior Healthcare. And are you a partner there or do you own the business? No, it's a nonprofit. I work for them. What do you mean by nonprofit? It's not for profit. Okay. You don't get paid a salary by them? No, I do. It's a nonprofit organization like the Salvation Army is nonprofit. It's a nonprofit organization, a community mental health center. Okay. How long have you worked for them? Almost 10 years, since 2015. All right. And what did you do before that? I was at the University of Florida on faculty as an associate professor and the vice chairman of the Department of Psychiatry and the director of Forensic Institute at the University of Florida. How long were you there? 1998 to 2005 when I retired. And prior to that, I was at my psychiatric training. And where was that? I did my residency at Connecticut Valley Hospital in Middleton, Connecticut, under the auspices of Yale University. I did 4 years of training there, and then I went to the University of Florida and did 1 year fellowship in forensic psychiatry, and I'm a board certified in general and forensic psychiatry. And what did you do prior to the residency? I attended medical school. Where'd you go to medical school? American University of the Caribbean. American University in the Caribbean? Of the Caribbean, correct. Where is that? The time I went there, it was in Plainview, Texas. I believe now it is in St. Martin, but it had been hit by a hurricane and they had to relocate to the mainland of the United States at the time that I attended. Why did you choose that school? I actually had not finished my undergraduate degree and they accepted me. I got waitlisted at the University of Florida and they accepted me at American University of the Caribbean and they were in Texas. So I was just anxious to go to and I went. And prior to that, during my first semester of medical school, I completed my bachelor's degree. Where did you complete your bachelor's? So I got my bachelor's degree from the University of South Florida, but then I took a couple courses to complete it through Wayland Baptist University, which is where the medical school was being housed at the time of the mainland. So you were able to complete your bachelor's there in Texas and then stay on the campus for something happened with the Zoom technicality. I guess it's fixed now. Dr. Werner. I didn't live on campus. I had housing. I had a house that I rented off campus. But our course, we used our facility. We leased, I guess, a school, at least part of the facility of the university. And who is we? Dan, thank you so much. But Owens kept reading after the judge said, we're not going to read. Today's your birthday. Happy birthday, Dan. Hey, we got some November babies up in here. Dan, happy birthday. Thank you so much for the $9.99. I really appreciate that. 20 pages of irrelevant for Mr. Owens. I just want to be thorough, you know? Mr. Owens wants to be thorough. All right, Mr. Owens asks, and who is we? And what do you mean, who is we? You just said we lease the school. No. Then I changed the school because I had nothing to with it. So I assume the school leased part of the facility of Baptist University where we're housed. Okay. And you got accepted. You finished off your undergrad. You got accepted. The campus school was right there. So you just started your postgraduate. Correct. I did my first 2 years, in the classroom learning there in Texas and then went to the Connecticut and did all of my clinicals in Connecticut. Okay. And now it relates to Sarah Boone. My client, we understand that you evaluated her. Was it yesterday or day before? Day before yesterday. Correct. Okay. And that was at the Orange County Jail? Yes. And that was the two prosecutors and myself? That's correct. How long was that evaluation? It was approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes. And did you do any testing? I did a mental status examination. And what is this mental status examination called? A mental status examination. That's it. That's what it's called. I just imagine her just being short and impatient, like how she was on the stand when she was testifying. Oh, hi, Miriam. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Hit that like button if you guys enjoy. All right, Mr. Owens. And what else did you do besides that test? Interviewed her. Is that customary in your field? Yes. Now, how long have you been on this case? Oh, I'm not sure. When they first contacted me, in all honesty, well, the event occurred in February of 2020. I was. Do you know if? No, I was. Do you know if you were contacted during the year of 2020? No, sir, I was not. I was contacted this calendar year. So you haven't been involved in this case at all until 2024? That's correct. I seem to remember that they had retained an expert, a potential rebuttal expert prior to me coming in. I came on the case in the late August of 2024. Seem to recall that they already had a rebuttal witness. You were not involved in any prior to coming in August of 2024? Oh, I'm not sure. I said this calendar year, which is 2024. So I very well may have been on board before you came on. Yeah. Do you have any notes that would reflect in your file about when you came on? It'll probably be on my calendar somewhere where I first had a phone conference with them or in an email. I have to look for it. Can you check? Can you check that and get back to me, either the prosecutor, about it when you first came on the case? Yes. All right. And what all did you do to get up to speed on this case to be able to diagnose or to evaluate her, then diagnose her, then render opinions? So I reviewed some documents that were referred to me, and then I evaluated her at the jail. All right. And how many documents were you asked to review? I was provided with Orange County Sheriff's Office investigative report. How many pages is that? There are several different printouts examining, and it's 150. Okay. No, I take that back. 50. I have 58 pages of that. Okay. I have a transcript of taped interview of Miss Sarah Boone. Is that the transcript of the 2-hour interrogation at the Orange County Jail? I don't know if it was an interrogation or not. The title of the document is Transcript of Tape Interview with Sarah Boone. It is from February 24th of 2020. How many pages was that? Again, there are several different printouts, and the last page I have is 177. Okay, and what other documents did you review? I have another transcript of a tape interview of Sarah Boone, and this one I've dated as February 25th, and that one is 394 pages. But it may be a continuation of the other ones because it's not dated at the top. I hand wrote that on, so I don't know. Let me see the back. If I got it from the back of it, where I got the date from, no, it's not dated on the back either. So I'm not sure where I got the date from. That may just be miswritten, and it may have been a part of the February 24th one. Okay, go ahead. Then I have medical records from Aspire Health, and I have, hold on, the medical records? Number 4 document was the medical records from Aspire Health. Who was treated in those records? Sarah Boone. And do they have dates of the treatment? October 25th, 2018. The first one is January 23rd, 2018. Okay, and I believe that was number 4, the medical records. What's next? Then I have medical records from Ciox Health, spell Ciox. Ciox. I have no idea how to spell that. Ciu? It feels like with the S, but like Ciu, right? I don't know. Ciox. Let's just say Ciox. Kiox? In my opinion, the jury wasn't too pleased with Owens cross-examining Dr. Turner Werner. I know they all saw right through Sarah Boone and James Owens' claims of BWS. They all used common sense. Mr. Owens, and who was the patient? Sarah Boone. What are the dates there? January 13, 2020 was the first one. And let me make sure. January 23rd, 2018 was the last date it appears. Here's another one because they're not in order, I guess. July 2009. I mean, I don't have the dates written down, so I'm just like flipping through it. Was that for some type of psychological, it gets cut off? That was the emergency room. I lost that page already. Some of them are psychiatric, some of them are not. July 2009 was an emergency room visit, and she started on clindamycin and antibiotics, so I doubt that was psychiatric. Okay, anything else about those records? Nope. All right. What else did you review? Then there was two printed out sections of, it looks like text messages and location pings off a cell phone, I assume. They're not labeled. It's just, there's 2 of them. And what are those dates, beginning and ending of both of them? One starts in December 25th, 2019 and goes through February 24th, 2020. And those are text messages from Sarah Boone's phone. And you know what? The numbers aren't labeled. So I assume from reading the text messages, but it's not labeled that way. Can you tell us when Sarah's texting and when somebody else is responding back? Cox? Oh, is it just Cox? Okay, Cox. Well, it says who, what number it's coming from. So it shows like if it's going from that phone or to that phone. Yes, there's a way to tell that, but I can't tell you who is texting. Were you able to tell when Sarah was texting? When the messages are coming from her phone, what I assume to be her phone? Yes? Yeah, you consider in your evaluation? No, you're asking me what I reviewed. I'm telling you what I reviewed. Okay. You didn't consider these text messages in your evaluation? I was aware of them, but they're not necessarily overly relevant. Okay, so the first set was from December 25th of 2019 to February 24th of 2020. Correct. Are these Sarah's texts? Sarah's text messages with, not too sure who, probably with other people. But this is a deposition of Dr. Tanya Werner, and Mr. James Owens is asking the questions, Nivek. All right, Mr. Owens. And then the second set of texts, February 25th, 2018 through December 23rd, 2019. And did you consider those text messages in your evaluation? I mean, I read through them, so I'm aware what's in there. And I'm aware that they, had a relationship issues and that she was, taking pictures, that they were fighting over the text. And, I'm aware of the relationship issues going back and forth via reading the text. Was there anything from those text messages that stuck out to you that caused you to pause or feel that there might have been some impact on your evaluations? No, as I said, I was made aware that they had a volatile relationship. I mean, in some of them, there are capital letters coming out of from her, cursing at him, calling him an idiot, a fucking idiot for overdrafting. And, there are some referring to domestic violence and, injuries. I mean, there are different text messages in there that demonstrate that they had a violent relationship, a volatile relationship. Would you consider that in your evaluation? Of course. Okay. Anything that sticks out to you other than what you've indicated? No. All right. What else did you review? That's it. Okay. So I've got the number 1. I've got the investigative report that you said was 58 pages. Number 2, I've got a transcript, but that was Sarah Boone, an interview with Sarah Boone that was 177 pages. Number 3, I've got a transcript that was an interview with Sarah Boone that is 394 pages. And then number 4, we've got the medical records from Aspire Health. The patient was Sarah Boone, and the dates was from January to October of 2018. Number 5, I've got the medical records where Sarah Boone was in the patient at Cox Health or Advent Health. And it looks like the records were from potentially July of 2009 all the way to January 13 of 2020. And then number 6, I've got a printout of text messages, 2 sets, one that are from December of 2019 to February 2020. Which you believe you can interpret the messages that came from Sarah Boone, and then a second set from... No, that's misstating what I said. Tell me what you mean then. I said that I can tell which messages came from the phone that's attributed to Sarah Boone. I did not say that I knew they came from Sarah Boone. Do you have any reason to believe that they wouldn't have come from Sarah, the ones that you attributed to her phone? I have no idea who typed them. How would I know? Okay, but there's nothing to indicate that to you that they wouldn't have come from Sarah if they were from Sarah's phone, correct? I would assume so, but I'm not starting to know that it came from. I'm not stating that I know they came from Sarah. I understand, okay, but you've been advised that the number that was Sarah Boone's phone number. Nobody told me that. I assumed that when I received the records and the reviewing them, that was her phone number. Okay. That this is Sarah Boone's phone number. Okay. And then it looks like there's a second set of printouts from text messages was from February 15 of 2018 and to December 23rd of 2019. And that appeared to be text messages relating to Sarah Boone's phone as well. Yeah, correct. That's the same number. And from that last number 6, the printout of the text messages, would you determine they were having a relationship issues or volatile relationship? They were fighting. There were pictures that would indicate that it was a volatile relationship. Yeah, it was. Yes. There were descriptions of things. Anything else that you can glean from those text messages? These 2 sets of text messages about Sarah Boone or no? Okay. Anything else that you reviewed? No, sir. Have you reviewed any videotapes? I have not. Have you reviewed any audio tapes? I have not. Have you reviewed any autopsy reports? I have not. Interesting. Only the transcripts? I feel like videos, audio would really help a lot. I mean, reading transcripts are great, but I feel like you gotta watch the videos and the autos and stuff. No? All right. She hasn't, she said. All right, the answer. Dr. Werner says, it may have been in the investigative. Hang on, because it may have been in the investigative report. I know I've seen a description of it at some point. So described in the incident report. No, I don't see it in here. So I know that it was probably described in here when they went back to talk to her the second day, because I know they talked to her with it. They talked to her about it with her. Okay, and did you receive any medical treatment records from George Torres? No, I did not. And explain to me exactly what is your title? I am the Chief Medical Officer. And what does that mean? It means that I'm in charge of all the medical staff. Is your job basically administrative duties? That's a portion of it, but that's probably the smallest portion of my job. What are the other parts of your job besides a small portion for administration? Yes, so I work 7 days a week on the Crisis Stabilization Unit in Lake City, Florida. I run that unit. We have approximately 30 patients there that I see during the week and on the weekends and holidays. Go ahead. Are those patients that have come in over the weekend that are in some sort of crisis? They come in and out. Yes, sir. Okay. Is there a limited amount of time that they can stay at the facility in Lake City? There is no specific limited amount of time. We are a short-term treatment facility. We are a Baker Act receiving facility, so the majority of our patients are on Baker Act. Our average length of stay is typically probably 3 to 5 days. We do have some outliers that do stay much longer than that if we're holding them specifically to transfer them to another facility, such as one of the state hospitals. They will end up staying longer than that. But our typical patients will only stay, three, I would say, I don't know, it's like 3 to 5, maybe a week, long enough. Mr. Owens cuts her off. Would it be fair to say that's probably 95% of the patients at the facility staying just short term? It's actually probably 65%. Okay. And you would treat them by talking to them and medication? Correct. We have therapists, we have recreational therapy, we have psychotherapy, we have medical management with them, we do family therapy. So we try to address all of their issues. Okay, and how much of your workload would you say is attributed to the Lake City Crisis Stabilization Facility? Well, Monday through Friday, I'm there 50% of my time. So every morning, and then I'm there on the weekends, I'm there in the morning also. So more than 50% of my time is related to that. Okay, and what is the other time? My forensic work. Now, what do you mean by forensic work? So forensic psychiatry is an area of psychiatry where psychiatry intersects with the law. So anytime there is a legal case that has some sort of psychiatric question, whether it be a civil arena or the criminal arena, are you a psychiatrist? Yes, sir. Okay, now that I know we've got a couple of experts on our side, Dr. Julie Harper, do you know her? I do not. Do you know what her title is? I believe she's a psychologist, isn't she? I think forensic psychologist. And then the other expert we've got is Dr. Michael Brannon. Do you know him? I do not. Okay, and do you know what his title is? I mean, if she doesn't know him, then how would she know his title, right? I do not. Well, I think he's a forensic psychologist as well. Okay. Do you explain to me what the difference is between your position as a forensic psychiatrist and their position as a forensic psychologist? So I'm an MD and they're not. What a short answer. What are they? They can be Psy DS, they can be Psy PhDs, but they're not MDs. They didn't go to medical school, so they typically do psychologists, typically do therapy, but they don't prescribe medication or understand medical issues, so to speak. Yeah, but they typically do testing, psychological testing, and therapy. Is there a big difference in the roles, the two separate roles, psychiatrists and psychologists? In their roles for what? For treatment? In the forensic field. Sure, we're both asked to do evaluations. They do. They do testing, psychological testing when it's indicated, which it's not always indicated. If there is a cognitive issue going on, they can do that, or personality issues. They come into play with regards to psychological testing can be helpful. Where we have a better understanding of the medications and any medical aspects of the individuals. Okay, and then you said you do administrative roles, and that you said you did 50% of more of your work is at the Lake City, Florida Crisis Stability Center. And then you said you do forensic work as a forensic psychiatrist. Oh, my understanding was that when she testified, it made it seem like she did more work at the Crisis Stability Center. And then the forensic part, she just did it like sometimes. But it seems like it might be like a 50-50 split. Mr. Owens, what percentage of the work is as a forensic psychiatrist? I have no idea. It's probably 45%. And that would involve, go ahead, 45% of your work is forensic psychiatry? Probably 50-50. Just depends on the week, in all honesty. Because if I have a trial going on, or a lot of depositions, or, traveling to Orlando to see somebody, then, I shift things around and more time may be dedicated this week to forensic work as opposed to, I may have somebody cover a patient one day. So I do less clinical work this week. It just depends on week to week. So as a forensic psychiatrist doing this forensic work, is it mostly relating to competency to proceed? I do a lot of competency to proceed, yes. I also do a lot of guardianship evaluations. Those are probably the majority of the work that I do, in all honesty. Now, guardianship evaluations, I assume that's where family has filed some petition with the court that one of their family members doesn't have the ability to take care of themselves or manage their affairs for themselves. They're asking the court to make a determination and appoint one of the family members to oversee. Yes. Typically, it's the family that files, or more recently, it's been facilities. So I think there is some kind of change in their ability to get reimbursed from different payer sources, unless they seek guardianship of individuals. So if there are individuals in the facility that don't have families, the facilities will file to have a guardianship and to have a guardian appointed. So if they're in a nursing home or something somewhere like that, correct, yes. Okay. And literally over the last 2 years, the majority of the evaluations have been coming from facilities, and it's been a higher number. So I think something has changed with regard to their payer sources, honestly. What percentage would you say of your forensic psychiatry work is related to either the guardianship or the competency proceedings? Oh, I don't know. I don't keep track of it in all honesty. Well, take your best guess. Probably half of my forensic work is made up by those two. All right, and what is the other half? I do sanity at the time of the crime. I do competency to be executed evaluations. I'm appointed by the governor to do so. I do personal injury cases. I do medical malpractice. I did a lot of the tobacco cases against big tobaccos. Just anything in that gets cut off. Okay, and have you ever testified in court? Numerous of times, yes. How many times would you say that you testified? Oh, hundreds, if not over 1,000. Numerous, lots. In criminal cases? Criminal and civil, yes. Oh, that's weird, because when I watched the trial, I felt like she didn't really testify in a lot of cases. That's why I thought she was like not, she was like, because I feel like when your job is to testify in cases and do all this like forensic work and stuff like that, as an expert, like you come in, you're the expert witness. I feel like you usually do like, I don't know, your demeanor on the stand. It's like very different. For her, I just felt like, I just thought she was just like a medical professional who's like, okay, I do this sometimes. And then when she went up there and testified, that's why I felt like her court demeanor was not exactly, I don't know how to describe it. I just felt like she could have done better while sitting there in court and answering questions. I felt like she was very defensive and then like, defensive, I would say, I guess. Question. What percentage, this is Mr. Owens. What percentage of the times you testified were in criminal cases? In court? I'm not sure. No, honestly, I have no idea. Would it be less than 20? No. It's, give us I'd be guessing, I'm guessing, okay. And I'd be guessing it would probably be 60%. Oh, 60%. Criminal cases, okay. Okay, and that is mainly incompetency to proceed type cases. Mainly, because those are the most common. Although I have to say they did not use that, used to be most common they're the most common evaluations I do. But they were not typically the most common evaluations that would have testimony. Because in the past, they would get 3 evaluations and not have testimony. But here, more recently, they've been doing only 2 evaluations and having testimony. Okay, and with a lot of times you wouldn't testify, you would just submit a report. Correct. And that will be sufficient and you're accepted by both parties, your opinions. Okay. Yes. Okay. And then you said you've done some work outside of the criminal area. You said that's about 50% of the work you do. Of the civil work, again, I'm guessing. So I don't remember what percentage I'm assigned to that because I'm just guessing. Okay. And in the criminal cases, do you testify primarily for the state? I'm called on by both sides. All right. And how many times have you been called on by the defense as a witness in this trial? I have no idea. I absolutely have no idea. I've been doing this for like 20 something years. I have absolutely no idea. And you don't keep any kind of records of that? No, sir. And you asked about that from time to time by lawyers about work you've done? Yes. Okay. In criminal cases, what opinions are you asked to render? I think we just went through that. Competency to proceed. Sanity at the time of the crime. Okay. And do you think the percentage that you were testified for the state is about 50-50 with the time you spent testifying for the defense? It's probably more weight towards state. The times, it depends on your question. So the times that I've been hired is probably more weighted towards the state. The times that I've been testifying, I actually have no idea because, again, a lot of times I don't testify. Okay, and what have you been, you said you testified as an expert. Have you testified, I assume, as an expert those hundreds of times, almost 1,000 times as an expert? Yes. I also testify every week and as a treating physician through our Baker Act court. Okay, well, I'm referring right now to criminal trials to which there is a jury has been impaneled. Sure. And what would you qualify as an expert to testify about? I've been qualified to testify with regards to psychiatric issues, anything under the umbrella of forensic psychiatry. So any type of psychiatric issue that they're having questions about, competency, questions, diagnosis. Well, I know I usually, in criminal cases, it would involve competency or either sanity. Correct. Are there any other cases that you would be allowed to testify in a criminal case other than for competency or insanity? I've done mitigation and aggravating factors. And you're talking about at sentencing? Correct, in criminal. Okay, and you would testify what would be aggravating factors in terms of forensic psychology? I wouldn't know. You would have to ask a forensic psychologist. I'm sorry. I apologize. Forensic psychologist, psychiatrist. What would be aggravating? It could be anything. So you would have to give me an example. You would have your statutory aggravating factors and, you have your non-statutory aggravating factors. So gets cut off. Would it be some kind of diagnosis that you would give? No. I can comment on their upbringing, their educational background, any of those issues or factors. You never called to testify as diagnosing somebody with some type of personality trait? Yes, it can be. As an aggravator or a mitigator? Yes, that would be an aggravator or a mitigator, sure. Okay, and as it relates to that diagnosis of some type of personality, how often are you asked to do that? Every case, as even a competency case asks for a diagnosis. Okay, and what are generally the diagnoses in these type of cases? There's no general diagnosis. Each individual is different. I don't go in with any kind of notion that there is a general diagnosis. Each individual is different. Hey, welcome back from the meeting. Welcome back. Hi, Millie. How are you doing today? Question. Can you give me one diagnosis that you would render in a criminal case? Schizophrenia, alcohol use, alcohol abuse, or use? There's no diagnosis of alcohol abuse anymore. We don't use that. It's an alcohol use disorder in the official diagnosis. Okay, so schizophrenia or alcohol use disorder, any other type of diagnosis. There are thousands of them. Anything in the DSM-5, TR is fair game. Any diagnosis, I understand. And there would seem to be some kind of common diagnosis you would have in the criminal realm that would come up before a jury. Antisocial personality disorder, but each individual is different. So some have those, some don't have those. Are you allowed to render those types of questions before a jury? Yes. Okay. So if I've got schizophrenia, alcohol use disorder, antisocial personality disorder, anything else that is fairly common diagnosis on your part in the criminal case, you just ask me, are there any diagnoses? I'm not telling you there are common ones on my part. Each individual is different. So I approach them and I evaluate them and diagnose them based on what presentation they have. Okay, and anything else you want to say about your testimony that you feel makes you an expert in the field in which you're about to render your opinions? No, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have. Have you ever testified in a battered spouse syndrome situation? I have. And how many times? I think I testified recent to the fact that it was between 5 and 10 times, but after that I testified to that and thinking about it, it's actually involved in a lot of cases where it actually isn't the kind of main focus on the case. So I think that number is higher than that. All right, but you believe the fair estimate would be between 5 and 10 times? No, I just said I believe it's more than that. Okay, but you testified that somebody suffers as a battered spouse? Suffers or didn't under that syndrome, correct? So if it's not 5 or 10, what would be the number? I'm not sure. Again, I didn't keep track of that over however long I've done that. But a lot of times, intimate violence cases involved. Would you say under 20? I'm not sure. Well, ma'am, you've got to give me some type of number. I'm not sure. Would you say under 50? Yes, probably under 50. Okay, so do you think you've testified about battered spouse syndrome in 50 cases before a jury? I didn't say before a jury. It may have been a bench trial. I said that, and it might have been a deposition. And I believe I testified with regards to that, yes. Okay, in front of a jury, how many times have you testified as an expert about battered spouse syndrome? No idea. Would it be less than 10? I have absolutely no idea. I'd be guessing. I'd just be guessing these numbers, so I have no idea. Well, how long have you been rendering opinions that people suffer from battered spouse syndrome? Since my training. Excuse me? Since my training in 1998. We were trained on it. All right. What training have you received regarding battered spouse syndrome? So we received training on it during my psychiatric residency. And then I'm very active in the Florida Psychiatric Society, and I actually presented numerous times on domestic violence at their meetings. All right, and tell me about the training at the psychiatric residency. Was that the training regarding battered spouse? Just generalized training. Just like you learned about, antidepressants, we learned about generalized anxiety disorder. So we have training. Was there a class on that or just some sort of seminars on it? Yes, we would have had seminars. We had lectures during the weeks as residents. Okay, all right. We go to the lecture series, and we would have been lectured on that, correct? So during the psychiatric residency, how much time did you spend on the lectures on battered spouse syndrome? Oh, I have no idea. It was like 20-something years ago. I have no idea. Would you say it was less than 10 hours? I have no idea. Okay, is it possible it was less than 10 hours? No, not over a 4-year period of time. No. Okay, and you didn't take any class on battered spouse syndrome, did you? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Did you take a course during your psychological residency that was on battered spouse syndrome? I didn't do a psychological residency. I did a psychiatric residency. And yes, we had, that's what I'm telling you, it was part of our lecture series. Yes. Okay. And then you mentioned Florida Psychiatric Society. That's correct. And what training did you receive in regards to that? I didn't. I gave the training on better spouse syndrome, on domestic violence, and that was included in the training. Correct. All right. And where did you learn about battered spouse syndrome? Okay, I'll let her answer. I think we just talked about that. I also did research online with my presentation partner, so we would update our slides before we did the presentation. So as part of your licensing... Wait, is this Owens? Hold on, let me drink this real quick. I think this is Mr. Owens. I think they forgot to put question here. So as part of your licensing for the state of Florida, to maintain your medical license, you have mandatory continued medical education. Oh, I think she's talking generally. Okay, she might just be talking generally. Sorry. I thought Owens was making some confirmations. So as part of your licensing from the state of Florida, to maintain your medical license, you have mandatory continued medical education courses that you have to take. And one of them is a 2-hour domestic violence course that you have to complete every 2 years when you renew your license. So we would present it every 2 years at the Florida Psychiatric Society meeting to provide that for our members, that education, so that they would have that for their re-licensing. And we did that for probably, 4 or 5 cycles before that. We handed off to someone else to do the presentation. Mr. Owens. So you would actually do the presenting to other medical professionals for their CMEs for their credits on domestic violence. That's correct. Okay. Do you have those slides or PowerPoints? I do not. Dr. Janori may have them still because we stopped doing them about 4 years ago, I believe. We handed that off. I can see if Dr. Janori still has them. Is he in your office? No. She's a psychiatric at North Florida Regional Medical Center. Is that in Jacksonville? No, sir. It's here in Gainesville. Okay, spell her last name. Ginory. Okay, all right. As it relates to Sarah Boone, do you have any diagnosis that relates to her? No. This is where we were reading the transcript in court. Now, she told me that she was previously diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, so that would be in there. She's being prescribed an anxiolytic for that to help treat her symptoms. Whether it's a generalized anxiety disorder versus an adjustment disorder to her being in the facility is questionable for me in all honesty. But I haven't had time to go through everything thorough since I just saw her 2 days ago and process everything in all honesty. I think she also has narcissistic personality traits was evident in our evaluation, and that would be my 2 major diagnoses. So from my understanding, what you just said, yeah, I would agree with general anxiety disorder that she had been diagnosed with. No, I just said it would be a generalized anxiety disorder versus an adjustment disorder, and that I hadn't had any time to fully formulate that opinion out. What do you need? I need time to go through my notes, and I didn't think about it, process it, but I think I had other depositions, as you're aware today, so I had to prepare for those and go through that. Yeah, I'm telling you, I think she's very busy, very, very, very busy, and I think by the time that she was testifying at the Sarah Boone trial, I think she was just like, fuck, I gotta catch up, gotta go through my notes. Yeah, I think she was very overworked. Got lots of loads. Hi, Jem. How are you doing today? How's it going? Hello. Rain. For how long have you been... Oh, gosh. I'm not going to read that. I did hear about that in the Henderson stuff on the Reddit thing. But yeah, I haven't really looked into that stuff yet. I'm not understanding what agreement they have for the retrial. Well... I don't know if Mr. Owens would even want to do a retrial, to be honest. You think he would? Maybe. You think they'll have the whole team still? Henderson and Mr. Beck? I don't know. I mean, it'll be pro bono because Sarah Boone doesn't have the money. It will be pro bono. No, maybe if she wins the alimony, the child support thing from Brian Boone, maybe she can use that money to pay Mr. James Owens. Oh, argument. Okay. Argument. Yeah, we went over that earlier. Feel free to not fast forward it. Feel free to rewind it back like it's a VHS tape. But I think there was an issue with the deposition with Dr. Werner, but I mean, the judge seemed to have fixed that by doing the deposition in court. But I guess Mr. Owens felt like he was very unprepared to, I don't know, that it probably fucked him up and he was not prepared for that. I wonder if Mr. Owens could just like, you know what? Can I just continue the cross examination of Dr. Turner Warner tomorrow, and then Dr. Turner Warner would be pissed that she would have to come back the next day. But yeah, there was 5 reasons that they asked for a new trial. One was the fact that the judge denied a continuance. Mr. Owens was only on the case for 45 days, Judge. I was only on the case for 45 days. The other one was the outbursts in the audience with George's family. I mean, it was just an emotional reaction from seeing George, her son, in the suitcase, the video. It was the deposition, the issue with the deposition, and then an in-court testimony of Dr. Werner, which we're reading through her transcript right now. It was, what else was there? Prosecutorial misconduct. Mr. Owens was not happy with the state's rebuttal. He said that essentially that wasn't a rebuttal addressing, I don't know, what Mr. Owens said in closing arguments, that basically the state used that as a second closing argument rather than using it as a rebuttal. But again, I don't think that was objected during the trial. I think that was like an afterthought that Mr. Owens had. And then the last one was, what was the last one? I think it's going to be expired. Oh, it is expired. Do you guys remember what the last one was? He tried so hard with the outburst. Mistrial! Yeah, judge is like, denied. Nope. You guys remember what the last one was? Put it in the chat for me, please. The motion for a new trial is to set up the appeal. Most arguments are Owens calling himself forced pro se. Yes. That Miss Boone forfeited her right to representation. Owens said that when Sarah Boone forfeited her right, she should have been given a warning, and that didn't happen. However, the two judges actually, knew that she was probably heading towards that direction, and if she continued with her misbehavior, that she probably would forfeit her right. So they gave her a warning before that happened. Like, hey, I'm warning you. This happens again with next counsel. You might forfeit your right to counsel in the future. All right, so back to Dr. Werner and the transcript. So this is where Mr. Owens had the issue with Dr. Werner not having her. Essentially, she met with Sarah Boone, and then she didn't really have time to go through her notes and process them, I guess. And so when they're doing the deposition now, Owens is like, okay, well, what are your, what's your diagnosis? What's your summary? And she's like, oh, I have to go through my notes. And he's like, okay. All right. So Mr. Owens is going to say this. So from my understanding, what you just said, yeah. I agree with the general anxiety disorder that she'd been diagnosed with. No, I didn't say it was a generalized anxiety disorder versus an adjustment disorder, and that I hadn't had time to formulate that opinion out. Well, what do you need? I need time to go through my notes and think about it, process it. But I had other depositions, as you're aware, yesterday, so I had to prepare for those and go through that. So I have not had time to process through all of my notes prior to this deposition today. Yeesh. Well, doctor, I'm not trying to inconvenience you. We know the judge set the trial for October 7th for a jury selection. Okay. But I don't anticipate your testimony would be until later. But, we could discontinue your deposition and then reset it when you've got time for review. Because obviously, I'm not going to want to take your deposition and then you have other opinions that are not going to be covered. Mr. J, what's your position? Mr. J, that's for the state. Mr. J says, conducting discovery after the jury trial starts is completely unacceptable to me, so that's my position. She needs to issue a supplemental report, or if there needs to be a need for a second deposition, then we can address that. But it would have been my position that we need to get this done right because the state doesn't want to have any appellate rights once a jury is sworn and jeopardy attaches. Mr. Owens. Well, you obviously understand my position. I'd like to finish my deposition today as well. But if she's holding out that she may have other opinions and other diagnoses after she has had more time to think, review the paperwork, then obviously that creates an issue. And you know what? I am on board with what Mr. Owens is saying because he's doing this deposition. He's trying to get this critical information from the state's expert. And she's like, well, I haven't had time to formulate my full opinions yet. And Owens is like, okay, then why the fuck am I doing this deposition? All right. Mr. Owens. But if she's holding out that she may have had other opinions and other diagnoses after she's had more time to think, review the paperwork, then obviously that creates an issue. The witness. But if that happens, I can bring you that forward and then you can add it to your deposition at that point if my opinion changes after having reviewed further. Mr. Owens. Mr. J? Mr. J says, I think we need to plow ahead. This is our time with her. The court reporter is prepared to give us transcript by the end of the weekend, and if something needs to be amended, then she can A, issue a report, and then B, if you need to take the deposition, an abbreviated deposition on the limited subject matter, then she is not prepared to testify about on today, then we can do that. But the notion of halting a deposition today that is set for 3 hours and then doing a 3-hour deposition during trial, especially after jeopardy is attached, is not what the state would do. Yeah, I don't know. Mr. Owens isn't even like suggesting that. He was just saying that like, okay, well, maybe we should just end the deposition right now. And then like, let's quickly do another deposition once she's formulated her opinions before the trial starts. Mr. Owens, I'm not suggesting that, Mr. J. I'm suggesting what you just said at the very beginning, which is let's finish. But if she has a supplement, then I would want to take a brief second deposition as it relates to any new diagnosis or opinions. Mr. J. Okay, that's what I'm understanding her to say is right now. There has been a previous diagnosis of the adjustment disorder in some of the records, and she just needs to review her records to see if she thinks that is the best diagnosis that she would give, as opposed to a generalized anxiety disorder diagnosis. Am I misstating that, Dr. Werner? Dr. Werner, it actually, you flipped them. Mr. J, okay. The witness. So she's saying that she has the generalized anxiety disorder. And I'm saying I want to review it more to see if I think it's more of an adjustment disorder to being in the correctional setting right now and the stressors that she's under right now, as opposed to a generalized anxiety disorder. Mr. J. Okay, so on this topic, if something new comes up, then we can address it. But if you have other topics to depose her on, then I would suggest we go on. Mr. Owens. I agree. And Dr. Werner, just let the state know, I know that if you we're on a short time. If you do the review, your notes over the weekend and whatnot, and formulate any other opinions, just let the state attorney know and we'll address it. The witness, absolutely. She didn't do that. I can see why Mr. Owens was like pretty pissed about this during the trial. And he was like, I'm going to read the transcript to you, judge. I'm going to read the transcript because this is what happened. They promised me that they would hit me up if there was more opinions about Sarah Boone. They never did that. So I understand why he was like really pissed by this. All right, Mr. Owens. Okay, so it's my understanding that you believe that she suffers from either generalized anxiety disorder, which is consistent with what she's already been diagnosed with, or an adjustment order to the jail time as some kind of anxiety disorder. Correct. Okay, and then based on that, okay, and then you base that on your interview with her plus the test that you gave her. My interview and her description of her presentation and what's going on with her and how she's felt since being in the correctional setting. Correct. Okay. And then the test you gave her was the only test that you gave her. Okay. Correct. I did a mental status examination. I don't remember what voice I did for Mr. Owens now. Fuck. I feel like Mr. J just like messed me up. What do we do for Owens? I don't remember now. Okay. And so you said that you believe she suffered from one of those, and that's your diagnosis. And then you mentioned narcissism, and that she meets some of the traits of narcissism. Narcissistic personality disorder traits. Correct. Okay. Tell me what criteria she exhibits when that tends to meet her as a narcissist. Just her presentation. That way she describes some of her milestones in her life, in herself, in her actions, was in an overly kind of self-grandiose manner, so to speak. So when I asked her, for example, how far she had gone in school, rather than to say, I'm high school, she said, well, I'm about to sit for the entrance exams for college when my father died. So what does that indicate to you? By stating it instead of just answering it, hey, I graduated from high school, what does that mean? Again, it's kind of like a grandiose manner of saying, I only graduated from high school, I didn't go to college. But she's talking about, she was going to college as opposed to answering the question. Oh, man. So you said she had some insecurities because she didn't go to college, but she presents in a different light. So the majority of her employment was as a receptionist type job, which she would describe to being a front desk person. And then she continued to always describe herself almost every single position as the assistant to the office manager or the assistant to the owner of the company. It was kind of like elevating her position, although she was kind of that front desk person by her description. I'm the assistant to the assistant manager. Okay. So those are examples in the manner that she described kind of her relationships. When she started to describe her relationship with her ex-husband and with George, There are ways that she described herself and her role in those relationships that was kind of elevating herself. So it was just a number of ways that just descriptive ways that she would use throughout the evaluation of herself that appeared to have narcissistic traits. Yeah, just like how she's like, I'm George's savior, y'all. Look at me. I'm the one who brings George to court. I'm the one that bails him out, and I'm the one who puts him in jail. George would be nothing without me. All right, Mr. Owens. And I heard you say about how she answered the question about her education, about how she answered the question about her employment, how she answered the question about her relationship with her ex-husband and George Torres. What other criteria would tend to indicate that she was a narcissist? I didn't say that she was. I just said that she has narcissistic traits, and that was the examples. That was the examples that I gave. All right, and do you have any other criteria that she was a narcissistic type traits? No, it's how she presented herself. Okay, and that's all that you saw that relates to any criteria that she may have narcissism? As I sit here today without sitting down and specifically going through my notes, yes. Okay, and do you think she suffers from a personality disorder? I did not diagnose her with a personality disorder. Did you feel that she met any criteria that would support a diagnosis for a personality disorder? Well, we just went through one of the criteria for the narcissistic personality disorder. That was a personality disorder. Okay, and any other criteria that you felt like she might meet with some other disorder? No. Okay, and do you feel that she suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder? She didn't give me criteria with regards to that. She discussed having fear and anxiety of his family, fear that they would come into the jail, or having someone else come to the jail and harm her. She talked about that. And she spoke out about, having recollections, remembering abuse from George during the evaluation. But those were the things that she spoke about that would go with that. But you don't believe that she suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, in your opinion? No. I would have to look through the back of my notes to see if she fully met the criteria. Can you explain why you don't think she suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder? No. I didn't say one way or another. I would have to look back through my notes for that. Oh, this is where he also quoted her as well in the transcripts for the court. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't know. Seems kind of a waste of time for Mr. Owens to do this deposition when she's like, I don't know. I have to look at my notes. I haven't thought about that yet. I need to look at my notes. I've just been really busy. Yikes. Question. Is that something you may in the future give an opinion about after some time reflecting and reviewing your notes? I may. Okay, and that's something you will let the lawyers know about if that changes? Yes. And you may have already answered this. You said that you felt like she met the criteria for the anxiety disorder? No. She says, she has the attributes and discussed with me that she has anxiety and symptoms of anxiety. And we discussed that, so whether those symptoms are attributable to generalized anxiety disorder, which is what she said she's been diagnosed with in the past, as opposed to an adjustment disorder based on what is going on right now. And what would be the criteria that you would be looking for to determine whether somebody suffered from anxiety disorder? Again, generalized anxiety, feelings of restlessness, uneasiness. So all of the general symptoms of anxiety, but it's typically related to numerous with generalized anxiety disorder. The anxiety is not specific to one specific thing. It's generalized, just like it says. Duh. I don't know, the way that she explains things, oh man, a little condescending to Mr. Owens. I'm gonna use the restroom really quick, y'all. Hold on. I'll be right back. Oh, you can see him? Oh, I didn't even know he was sitting there. He's so cute. He's making sure you guys behave. Cheryl says hi. Oh, go back to sleep, buddy. Go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. I heard those dogs have already passed. That's what people said in my chat, that they are no longer around anymore. I don't know what happened to the dogs. I don't know who took care of them after Sarah got arrested. Executive producer. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. He just babysits. He just sleeping. All right, y'all. Where are we at? Mr. Owens. Was there any criteria that you felt that she exhibited that would indicate that she suffered from anxiety disorder? Well, again, I think the criteria is over. I think the symptoms overlap for the two disorders. And between anxiety and the adjustment disorder, correct? And those restless... Wait, hold on. Oh, fuck. I forgot I was going to make his voice deeper. And those restlessness and uneasiness... I don't know. Mr. J fucked me up, man. Yes, if she has symptoms of anxiety, so whether it's attributable to a generalized anxiety disorder right now, or whether it's just attributable to the adjustment disorder right now is the question. The actual diagnosis is the question. The symptoms aren't the question. Okay, but the criteria would be restlessness, and I heard you say uneasiness. Is there any other criteria for anxiety or adjustment disorder? Yes. Yeah, there is a lot of other criteria for anxiety. Can be, an increased heart rate. So any of the feelings that come along with anxiety, difficulty sleeping, decreased appetite, anything that comes along with people being anxious. Okay, and there were 2 videos. You say you didn't watch any video. There was a video of George Torres lying in the bed and Sarah wants her keys back. Did you have a chance? Were you able to hear me just now? I did. Okay. There's a video of George Torres lying in the bed and Sarah Boone wants her keys back. Did you have a chance to review the video or speak to the state attorney about that? No, sir. I saw no videos. Okay. You heard Sarah talk about her drinking alcohol? About her drinking alcohol? Oh, sorry. I don't know why. To me, that was phrased so weird. Okay. Drinking alcohol. Yes, I asked her about that, correct. Do you have any opinions about that? About the alcohol as it relates to Sarah Boone? Yes, I think Sarah Boone has an alcohol use disorder. And is that the word we used to call alcoholism? We don't use that term alcoholism, but we use that term alcohol abuse, alcohol dependence, but those we don't use anymore. It's alcohol use disorder. How long has that term been used, alcohol use disorder? That came back in effect with DSM-5, and so I want to say probably 5 years now. I'd have to look. And your diagnosis she suffers from alcohol use disorder? Yes. Is that based on the history that she gave you? Yes. And she acknowledged herself that she felt her drinking was problematic for her. Okay. When I asked her if she felt her drinking had been problematic for her, she said yes. Okay. And do you have any opinion on the impact that Sarah's drinking had on her thinking and behavior the night of the incident? Yeah, I think it certainly affected her thought process and behavior. I think they were both drinking. They acknowledged that. She acknowledged that. Yeah, barely. She said she only had like 2 glasses of wine. She wasn't drunk. Oh, Lord. In terms of Sarah, what impact did Sarah's drinking have in your opinion? If you have one, what impact did Sarah's drinking have on her thinking and behavior at the time of the event? Well, alcohol disinhibits people, so it probably disinhibited her. I don't know what her alcohol level was. They had, I think, 2 bottles of wine. 2 mega bottles of wine. I wonder if she knew it was 2 mega bottles of wine. So what do you mean by disinhibits? It causes people to, or allows them to do things that they wouldn't normally do. So the alcohol, in your opinion, may have impacted her thinking and behavior at the time of the event. It may have. But unfortunately for her, it was voluntary intoxication. No one forced her to drink. That is right. Oh, man. Maybe she should have George forced me to drink. Maybe that would change things. Oh, the lies. It was involuntary, which isn't a defense. But the alcohol could have affected her thinking and behavior that night. Yes. And generally, if you think if it affects people in that way, they're disinhibited, they would tend to do things they normally wouldn't do. Yes. Anything else you want to say about that? Alcohol, how it affects her thinking and behavior at the time of the event? No, again, I don't know what her blood alcohol level was at the time of the incident, so I can't tell you whether it did or did not affect her. Okay, and then I know that Sarah, before I come onto this case, maybe just as I was coming on, she wrote a bunch of letters to the judge and the prosecutor. Do you have any clinical conclusions as it relates to her writing all those letters? Not without having read. She didn't read the damn letters. Not without having read them. Okay, and on the subject of battered spouse syndrome, generally, what are the characteristics that are present in an individual suffering from battered spouse syndrome? What are their characteristics? Again, it depends on the individual. It depends, but it typically they can be, it depends on the abuse. So it depends on, if they're intimidated, if if they use economic abuse against them, try to control them, if they isolate them. Oh, who was doing a lot of this intimidation, economic abuse, control, isolation? Depends on the individual and in their response to that. But typically, they're quiet, meek, kind of people described as the walking on eggshells, trying to avoid conflict with the abuser. Any other general characteristics that you would have that you haven't mentioned relating to the individual? Generally, I understand there is a specifics, but generally the characteristics you would find in someone suffering from battered spouse syndrome. I mean, there are, statistically, they are, they're underemployed, they're undereducated, lower educated, lower, although it crosses all boundaries, it's more prevalent in lower socioeconomic status. There are a lot of statistics in that. Any other questions other than what you mentioned here today that you typically see in someone suffering from battered spouse syndrome? No, I think those are the big ones. All right. With the psychiatric and psychological community, what are the criticisms about battered spouse syndrome? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Well, it would seem in the position that you would see in, it would seem in the field you would have some detractors from these conditions. I know it's tied in the post-traumatic stress. You're familiar with that. How battered spouse syndrome is tied to post-traumatic stress? Yes, it can be. Okay. I don't think there's an actual diagnosis in the books you mentioned, the medical book. There is one for post-traumatic stress disorder, but there isn't one for battered spouse syndrome, correct? That's correct. And battered spouse syndrome typically falls under post-traumatic stress disorder. Is that correct? They meet the criteria. They can qualify that for the diagnosis, correct? Okay, and I guess it's just a general question in the field. Have you heard criticisms about forming opinions that someone suffers from battered spouse syndrome or anything about that condition where they think it's not legitimate? Or that's where I'm getting at? No, I have not. I'm sorry? No. No criticisms, no criticisms. I know it's been in the law. It's been in the medicine for several years now. I think Lenore Walker is the one who first developed the theory, correct? I'm not sure. But it's been 20 some odd years or more, correct? So you would agree it's an established in the psychiatric, psychological community that battered spouse syndrome is actually a syndrome. It's a pattern that we recognize. Yes, it's not a diagnosis. Correct. Okay. And as a result of the pattern, the individuals who are suffering from it, I don't want to say that they suffer from psychosis, but it's an altered mental state. They may, some of them. Have you ever not been allowed to testify as an expert on battered spouse syndrome? No. Or any other field? Have you ever not been allowed to testify? No. What is your clinical treating experience of battered spouse syndrome? Again, we see them. I work on a crisis stabilization unit, so I see individuals who are involved with intimate partner violence on a regular basis. Maybe not every day, but certainly throughout the week, we'll have individuals admitted that they have involvement with intimate partner violence. So how many people would you say you've treated for battered spouse syndrome that you felt qualified for battered spouse syndrome? Oh, I don't know. Have you ever found somebody that qualified for battered spouse syndrome? Again, it's not a diagnosis, so it's not something that I would document in the medical records. I would document that they were a victim or had been involved in intimate partner violence, which is what we call it. But have you ever formed an opinion with a patient that, yeah, this person right here, I understand they've got instances where they've been the victim of domestic violence and they're coming to you to be treated and they're coming to you in a crisis type situation. And you find out that part of the reason they're in crisis is because of them being a victim of domestic violence. But in terms of you actually accessing seeing somebody that you could be able to actually form an opinion, yes, I believe this individual suffers from battered spouse syndrome. Have you ever been able to do that and form an opinion that that's the case of any of your prior patients? No. My opinion would have been that they were suffering from acute stress disorder, which is actual diagnosis prior to post-traumatic stress disorder, secondary to intimate partner violence, would have been my opinion. I would not have, gets cut off. Have you ever testified in court that somebody suffered from battered spouse syndrome? I don't know that I've set those terms. Again, intimate partner violence, and it's not a diagnosis. It's a collection of, symptoms that you identify or report that they identify for a report. Have you ever testified in court before that somebody did not meet the criteria for battered spouse syndrome? No, again, I don't know that I would have used those words because it's not a diagnosis that I would testify to. It's a group of symptoms. Is it your opinion that Sarah Boone does not suffer from battered spouse syndrome? No, again, I would have to go through my notes to fully formulate an opinion on that. But I think that certainly she was involved in a violent relationship. and you haven't formed an opinion one way or another about whether Sarah Boone suffers from battered spouse syndrome. I think I want to go through it to make sure, but I believe there's a lot of violence in her relationship. She described being threatened. She talked about, the different kind of violence cycles and the different aspects of it. So most likely she does. I don't have an issue with that. Okay. And then, so to be fair, from, I know you saw her for a couple of hours, 2.5 hours, whatever the case may be, and you're trying your best, right? As we all trying to, do our job. And I know that you felt like, okay, she's been diagnosed with this anxiety disorder, and that you think maybe just more adjustment to the jail situation. And then you felt like, so you have that opinion. And then you have the opinion that she tends to meet some sort of criteria for narcissism. You said that, correct? And then I hear you say now that she may very well meet the criteria for battered spouse syndrome, but you may want to look at your notes and reflect on that a little bit more, correct? Correct. Are there any other diagnoses besides those 3 that I mentioned? Alcohol use disorder we spoke about. Okay, all right. I forgot about that one. That will be the 4th one. Correct. And that based on what she told you in the terms of her history with the use of alcohol, that's correct. Any other potential diagnosis other than those 4 potentially? No. Okay. And what do you intend on expressing any other opinions other than we've spoken about here today? No, I would answer whatever questions I'm asked. Wait, okay. Remember how Mr. Owens had an issue? Mr. Owens was like, I think the doctor diagnosed Sarah Boone with something. And then Mr. Owens was like, wait, you didn't mention that in your deposition. And then the doctor was like, well, you didn't specifically ask me that question or something like that, right? What was that again? Mr. Owens had an issue with the doctor because she testified to something different. And then Owens was like, well, you never mentioned that in the deposition. I asked you if there's any other opinions that you would want to express, that you haven't expressed. I asked you if you had any other opinions you have not expressed yet in the deposition, and you said no. Oh, fuck, what was that? You guys remember? Anyone here remember? I don't know. Drew, it's hard. Mr. Owens, it's hard. She didn't agree with the diagnosis. She didn't. Oh gosh, what was it specifically? It's in my notes, but like, I would have to really go through them. Let me see. Do I want to do that? It's a lot of notes. It's a lot of notes. It's a lot of notes. Dr. Werner. Dr. Tanya Werner. Werner. Oh, Owen standing up. Opinion different. Should tell me. Opinion PTSD. Should have told me. Oh, earlier. It's called striking the witness. Sorry, because Owens wanted to have Dr. Tanya Warner's testimony removed completely. Striking the witness. That's what I meant to say. Catch-all questions. PTSD? It was something like she didn't agree with the diagnosis. She said maybe in the depot, and her saying no was different. She said she didn't have PTSD, and then she said she did. You want to see Sarah's IMS report from day 1 of the trial to present? I know, right? That would be, my nosy ass would definitely read that. That would be very interesting to read. All right, let's go back. Okay, well, I'm asking now. I mean, you're the expert. I'm not. You're the one that's evaluated her. You're the one that's given her the test. I didn't know the field you do. You know the field. I understand you said, hey, I want to think about this some more. I want to review my notes to see if there's, in terms of right now, without any further reflection, without any further. Yes, sir. Reading of the notes and any other opinions that you can think of, you could just express in the form or fashion with all this experience. Almost 1,000 jury trials or 1,000 trials you testified as an expert. Anything else that comes to mind that may be an opinion that you might want to express in Sarah Boone's case. Anything else that I'm asked with regards to how her diagnosis comes into play with regards to her case, I guess. What other opinions do you believe that qualifies you? Oh God, I'm messing up this thing. What other opinions do you believe you're qualified to express as it relates to Sarah Boone and the facts of those circumstances relating to this case? Anything in regards to her diagnosis, I guess. Of those 4 things that we mentioned, correct? Okay. Is there any other thing that you might want to go do in this case other than potentially go back through your notes to reflect on the interview and whatnot? I know we didn't record the interview, did we? Not that I'm informed of. Okay, I should have done that, but we didn't. Other than that, the notes that you reviewed that you were given to you in the interview and the testing that you did, correct? Is there anything else that you need? Yes, I believe I'm waiting to review the deposition of defense expertise. Dr. Julie Harper? I believe so, yes. And Dr. Michael Brannon? Yes, I believe I'm waiting for those deposition transcripts. Would it be important for you to review any other records, like medical records or anything of that nature? If there's anything that I've not reviewed that is disclosed that I'm aware of, I'm happy to review it. What about the jail medical records? If we were able to obtain those, absolutely, be happy to review them. Anything else that you feel like you would need that you haven't gotten to be able to express opinions in this case if you mentioned here today? No, because I don't know what else is out there, so no. Okay. And you mentioned forensic work being about 50% of your job responsibilities. Yes, sir. How much income do you make a year in forensic work? I have no idea. I believe last year, I'm guessing, I want to say last year was probably like 100 to 150. Damn. Maybe, might be less than 100. Because she also has her position as a chief medical officer as well. That you make on forensic work? Correct. And the forensic work, is that a separate income from the salary that you make working the facility? Correct. Okay. How do they split them up? How much do you make in terms of a yearly salary at the facility you work at? Yes, I'm curious. How much do you make? I'm not sure what my salary is. In all honesty, because it all just comes together. So I have my salary, my base salary. I get extra pay for working on the weekends, which I do because we don't have any other physicians to do it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think she overworked. And then my forensic work. The bills are split 65 to me and 35% to the nonprofit. So if you do any forensic work, like on this case, then the profit or the income you receive, that's split between 65% you and 35% to the facility. Oh, okay. I didn't know about that. Okay. Good to know. So her making that 100, or what should I say, like 130? It's more like maybe like 60 to like 80, 60 to 90 maybe? Okay. And how are you being paid in this case? What do you mean, how am I being paid? Is a court appointed work where you've got a flat fee, or is it by the hour? No, it's not court appointed. All right. You're being paid by the state attorney's office? Yes, that's correct. And do you charge by the hour? Typically, yes. What is your hourly rate for the state attorney's type work? I want to say, I don't do the billing, but I want to say it's like $3.50 an hour. And do you know how many hours you have in this case? I do not. Okay. I'd have to look. Is there a cap on the number of hours you can put in this case, or just as much as I need to be ready to testify at the trial? I don't know, because in all honesty, again, I don't pay attention to that. My assistant deals with the financial and the billing. I just do the work and get the money. I just get the bag. All right. And I know you're testifying here today, but it sounds like you may be doing additional work in terms of reviewing your notes and reflecting on the matter. Yes. How many more hours do you anticipate doing that type of work? It may take me a couple more hours to go through this. If they actually want me to type a report, that'll take much longer. But they haven't indicated they actually want a typed report at this point. Is it normal? Is it normal when you're testifying something like this that you would need to report? I know insanity cases maybe, and incompetency cases maybe, that you want to submit a report. Something like this for a battered spouse. Is that normal to submit a report? A lot of times they do. I feel like you should always just submit a report. Right? Wouldn't that just be helpful? I don't know. But I guess you don't always have to do it. I don't know. I feel like it would just be helpful just to have the report. A lot of times I do. The majority of my case, I submit reports. It's very rare that I don't submit a report. In all honesty, but I think this case was rushed. That in getting her seen, getting to the deposition, that there wasn't a report, which actually writing a report helps formulate my opinions, and getting all my ducks in a row with regards to the symptoms, pointing out how everything kind of pulls together. Even for a battered spouse syndrome cases, you submit a report? I would say yes. Okay. Have you been asked to submit a report in this case? In the majority of cases, I submit reports. Okay. Do you know how you would have been called to handle this case? I mean, why were you selected as opposed to any other person in Orlando? You know, Orlando's a pretty big city. You think that they would have found somebody there. Yeah, that's the other thing too, because she's from Gainesville, right? Like Gainesville to Orlando. Where is that? Gainesville, Florida to Orlando, Florida. Roughly an hour, 52 minutes ish. I had to sneeze. Just kidding. I don't have to sneeze anymore. Yeah, because I was like, man, not only is she's working a lot, like a heck ton of hours, got other cases too, depositions and stuff like that. She got to travel like almost 2 hours. Wonder why. Was there a reason that you had some specialized expertise that you were selected over somebody here locally? I do not. Okay, and are you? I don't know much about this area. You would have to ask them why they chose me. I can't. Okay, I'm from Pensacola area, so I'm not that familiar. Are you pretty well known in the geographical area of Orlando, Gainesville? Maybe that's the reason. I do. I don't do a lot of small cases in the Orlando area, but I do quite a few murder trials down there. Okay, so other than the couple hours that you intend to maybe reflect on your notes and anything else, any other work that you intend to do on this case? No, sir, not that I'm aware. And you've expressed all your opinions, at least generally here today? Yes, sir. Is your testimony at trial, is that more expensive than $3.50 an hour? I don't believe that it is. In state cases, I don't believe that it is. I think it's statutory, mandated, and all honestly, what they pay. Just double dog sure. You admit that you have no other opinions other than the ones you've expressed here today that I've been asked about. If I'm asked something else, then I'll offer it. Ooh, that's like the third time I think that she said that she's going to offer it, but she never did. Question. Have you been provided all the resources you need to rely on, express your opinions? And I have based an opinion on the resources that I've been provided. If there's other things out there to be provided that may or may not change my opinion, and you agree that the opinions are subjective, not based on authority, correct? Based on my years of training and experience. But what is your subjective opinion? Correct. Mr. Owens. Ma'am, I thank you for your time. Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. J. Hello, doctor. If you don't mind, can you turn to Aspire records that were sent to you? Let me know when you have them. Got it. All right. Now it's Mr. J and Dr. Werner. Cross-examination. Very short. Very short. Double dog dare. He said double dog dare. Yeah. Double dog dare. Or is it double dog shore? Double dog shore. He said double dog shore. I like that. You double doggy shore? All right. Cross-examination. Mr. J. Mr. J. All right, on the bottom right corner of these records, is there a page number? Yes. All right. Yeah. So on page 414, 19, 26, mine don't have those kind of numbers. Mine has 1 of 1, 2 of 2. Okay. In these records, did Aspire diagnose her with an adjustment disorder and alcohol intoxication? Yes. All right, so that's their diagnosis. And then we've had the discussion with Miss Boone on Wednesday about some earlier visits at a hospital where there are no records from that they diagnosed her with an anxiety disorder and prescribed her Xanax. Is that not true? I don't believe it was in hospital. I think it was her primary care physician is what she testified to. And actually, I'll go backwards because what they diagnosed her was with an adjustment disorder and alcohol intoxication with mild use disorder. Okay, so they did alcohol use disorder also. And her blood alcohol levels or what they are in the reports, we don't need to discuss that. Okay. In regards to anxiety versus adjustment disorder or both, it seems that there is a past diagnosis for each of those, correct? That's correct. And for you to make a distinction between the two of whatever significance there might be in that distinction, you would just need more time to think about that. Correct. All right. Okay. Now, in regards to trauma, is trauma something that is subjective to the person who is on the receiving end of it? And let me give you an example. One spouse may come home to another spouse and call her a jerk, and that spouse that was called a jerk may think that is the end of the world, cry for a weekend, and file for a divorce, whereas another person may brush it off as nothing. Is that a fair assessment or example of how trauma works? Yes. Each individual is different with regards to how they perceive things coming at them. So even in a violent relationship where both people in the relationship may be violent towards one another at different times, does that necessarily mean that they're internalizing that as trauma the way somebody else may or may not? Correct? Not necessarily. So just because somebody is in an abusive physical relationship with another person, does that mean that that is lending towards the criteria of battered spouse syndrome? No, not necessarily. And I don't know what we've talked about, but is efforts to control another person, is that a component of battered spouse syndrome? for the abuser, not the abusee, not for the victim. So, for example, if one partner has the other partner's identification papers and wouldn't turn them over to that person, is that an element of control, showing that that person is trying to exert control over the person that wants their identification papers? Yes. Giving gifts to another person in a relationship, partner A gives partner B a gift and then still, whenever it's convenient, considers that to be partner's A property even though it was a gift to partner B. Can that be an element of trying to exert control over partner B? Yes. It's coercion. Actually, hold on a second. Going back here, this right here. Can it go both ways? I don't know what we talked about, but it's efforts to control another person. Is that a component of battered spouse syndrome? Oh, battered spouse syndrome. Battered spouse syndrome. Because I feel like if you're an abuser and you also abuse, I feel like you could still exert control over someone and still be the one who's abusing the relationship. Or try to, I feel like it could go both ways because there's like different types of abuse. But they're clarifying it for battered spouse syndrome. Okay. Let's go back down. Can that be an element of trying to exert control over partner B? Yes, it's coercion and a form of financial abuse where you're, giving things and taking it away. Is isolation any relevance to the battered spouse syndrome situation? I know it's not a diagnosis, but, if partner A is isolating partner B from friends, families, coworkers, does that have any influence on a decision by a healthcare professional whether this is signs of battered spouse syndrome? Yes, that's one of the symptoms that you see in intimate partner violence. One of the ways of manipulating or controlling someone is isolating them from friends, peers, and relatives. How about if partner A is threatening partner B with legal process such as arrest or following through with prosecutions? Is that an element of control that could be a criteria for battered spouse syndrome? Yes. Again, it's threats, coercion. How about tearing the other partner down verbally, telling partner B that he or she is worthless? I'm the best thing that's going to happen to you. I'm the best thing that's ever happened to you. You will never do better than me. Those sort of things. Does that have any influence in this battered spouse syndrome arena? Certainly, that lends itself to emotional abuse, which goes along. It's not just the physical abuse, it's financial abuse, it can be sexual abuse. It can be, as you're talking about, just different types of abuse. Can a partner in a relationship, even without being subjected to physical abuse, be made to feel worthless and out of control and dependent on the partner that says those things to him or her? Yes. Is there any sort of phraseology or words to describe that when there actually isn't physical violence necessary, but just psychological violence? Psychological violence? What the fuck is psychological violence? Just emotional abuse. And is that diagnosis in the DSM or is it fit under PTSD or other trauma-related issues? No, it's not a diagnosis. Again, it's something that we would have recognized, and you may have an adjustment disorder due to that, an acute stress reaction to that. So it's something... this is the doctor. So it's something that would identify as one of the stressors that's causing diagnosis, but it's not a diagnosis in and of itself. Prior to saying that a particular person has the signs of the recognized criteria for battered spouse syndrome, what sort of things would you like to have as a practitioner besides just a history given by the person that is alleging they were abused? Right? Collateral from other individuals who are familiar with the relationship, medical records that indicate they've been in treatment for different injuries if there's been physical violence or sexual violence. So police reports, if there's been prior arrest, documents of police coming out to the home. A lot of times they would go into the home in years past, but not result in arrest. Sometimes they end up getting Baker Act, where there's violence in the home as opposed to being arrested. So any documents that may lay out kind of a pattern of abuse and turmoil in the relationship. So anything that is not dependent on the credibility of the historian, correct? So for example, if there is a video that exists of partner A accusing partner B of stealing car keys, man, we're getting really specific. The credibility of that is dependent on the person accusing the other person of stealing the keys, even though there may be other possibilities such as just losing the keys. Correct. Or misplacing them. Yes, correct. When the historian of abuse has alcohol abuse disorder and gets acutely intoxicated, has narcissistic personality. Oh, the historian of the abuse. So Sarah Boone. When the historian of the abuse has alcohol abuse disorder, gets acutely intoxicated, has narcissistic personality tendencies, Even if they may not meet 5 criteria or whatever it is in DSM-5-TR, are those red flags to take what the historian is saying with grains of salt and require extra corroboration? They are. Just being in a criminal area to start with is a red flag that you want to take everything and kind of cross-check everything that you're being told. Now, in particular, with the history of that Ms. Boone gave on Wednesday about the date of the offense, I know that you were taking notes. Can you tell us, starting from when they woke up? I remember that they were being questioned and kind of redirecting to that. Take us through what she said was her day and we can stop. Yes. It'll be a long narrative and we can stop as needed. Okay. So she said they woke up in the morning. He wanted to drink. She asked him if they could clean the house together in an effort to kind of distract him from that. She said they cleaned, did the laundry, vacuumed, went out on the back porch where they smoke, drank, talk. Let me stop you there. Just so that we're clear, I don't know if we ever clarified it. On Wednesday, did we take that to mean smoking nicotine versus smoking cannabis or something else? I took it as smoking nicotine because she told me that she's only smoked cannabis 3 times in her entire life. Okay, go on from there. Thank you. So this was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon by this point because they actually didn't. She later went backwards and said she didn't know what time they get up. So it wasn't necessarily morning. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they had finished cleaning. They were on the back porch, smoking, drinking, talking. She couldn't recall if they ate lunch. But he got a bottle of wine. They'd had half a bottle from the night prior, and then they got another bottle of wine. She said they went to Publix together. Then they went back to the back porch, hanging out, and they had dartboard, 2 beach chairs out there, and they were just spending time. And then she said he began thinking about life in general, got upset. She said she was afraid that she would get hit and asked him if he wanted to call his daughters. She acknowledged that she knew his daughters would refuse to speak to him when he was drunk, and so that upset him more. Then why would she want to have him call the daughters? Then she thought she would show him her art. Oh, she thought the daughter would show him her art. Oh, the daughter would show? I don't know if she's getting a little mixed up here. I don't remember hearing this part too, saying that like she was afraid she would get hit, so she'd asked him to call the daughters. I don't know if I remember that part. But he then eventually called his brother. She said that he was sad and that seemed to be a turning point for him, and that she said she pushed him and tried to get him to tell his brother that he had pulled her down the stairs the night before. Why? Well, this narrative does not make sense. He called the brother. She said that he was sad and that seemed to be a turning point for him. And then she said she pushed him and tried to get him to tell his brother that he had pulled her down the stairs the night before. So, and I questioned her about that because she said, that she was worried that he was getting upset and she didn't want to upset him. But yet she said she was trying to get him to tell his brother that he had done something to her the night before, which seemed like that to me would be something more upsetting for him. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of weird. And she kind of denied that they would stay outside for a while. And then she decided to go inside. She said he was upset and she introduced a puzzle that they were doing and they finished it. Then they did some arts and crafts. And again, she offered that she was trying to unfocus him on hurting her and being upset, although he hadn't done anything at this point. She said that she was entertaining him for herself to be okay. She said it was a normal day for her. She was afraid all day. He was upset. He was sad. He was upset. They listened to music, but she doesn't like his kind of music. It's angry rap music about killing and hurting things, but he was dancing with the dogs. And then she said they were sitting on the couch, and she said at some point he went to get cigarettes, came home with more wine. So at some point he left the home, came back, but she hasn't clear where in this lineup that occurred. She said they were both laughing and having a good time, and then they were sitting in silence, and he said, "You're it." And she said, "Now we have to play hide and seek." And she was it. So she went upstairs to take a shower while he was hiding, and she stayed up there for a while. And then she came down. She got out. She decided it had been enough time, and she got out of the shower, was coming down the stairs. And she said there was a suitcase and some clothes that had been gotten out to donate, and they were trying to get that together. It was on the floor in the living room, and that she was coming down the stairs. She saw him kind of slipping to the suitcase as a hiding place. And she said, "I saw him in the suitcase, I zipped him up, and we were laughing." She said that he said he couldn't breathe. And I remember feeling I couldn't breathe when he was choking me or sodomizing. And I was angry. I shook the suitcase. I lost control of the suitcase and it flipped. She said my son's baseball bat was right there. He put 2 fingers out and I hit him with the bat. "I know." And she said, "I know. Now I'm definitely going to die. This is what it sounds like. This is what it feels like. I didn't want him to leave. I didn't want to leave him face down. So I left him right side up. I said, if he got out, I didn't care if I died. Was tired of it, tired of living in constant fear. I don't want to live like this anymore." She said she took the video and a photo to show him terror because she intended to show him the next day. That's what she said about it. And did she indicate that she just felt like there was some sort of generalized fear that she had a physical harm from him throughout the day, every day? That's what she said, yes. Now, did she describe her relationship as sort of she was the nurturer who was going to save him? She sure did. Yes. Throughout her description of the relationship, how was he the alleged victim when she was found guilty? It's because they are not accepting the verdict. They're like, oh, she should have gotten a new trial. So let's, the verdict doesn't count. Still the alleged victim. Yeah, it's a weird one, Tony. Yes, throughout the description of the relationship with him, yes, she did everything for him. He would lose his job. She'd go back. She would go to his boss and beg him to take him back and get his job back for him. So, she was, the kind of link to his family for him. She was kind of this almost like a savior kind of presentation with regards to him. Did she ever describe that he tried to isolate her from her family? She didn't describe that. Did she ever describe him trying to prevent her from seeing her son and spending time with her son and having her son come over? No. She did not say that he tried to prevent that. Did she describe him ever isolating her from her friends, preventing her from going out, seeing her friends? No, I don't recall her saying that. Did she ever describe that there were times, however, that he would take her debit card and or credit card, then go spend money that she did not want to be spent? I don't recall her telling me that. And that might be something that was outside the scope of evaluation. Right. During the course of her relationship with George, did she describe that she went to her ex-husband's house as a place of solace to escape the situation with George? Yes. And the night of the incident, did she describe that there was anything preventing her from going to her ex-husband's house? Or to a neighbor or anybody else when George was in the suitcase? No, exactly. Or calling 911. Do people who suffer from abuse disorder or substance abuse disorder other than alcohol, do people in that situation tend to lie to their use or minimize their use? Yes. Can you elaborate on that? Yeah, they teach us in medical school that you almost kind of double what people tell what the fuck? They teach us that in middle school that you almost kind of double what people tell you they use. You should expect that they're actually using double that amount. Oh, okay, like the alcohol and stuff like that. Okay. You should expect that they're actually using double that amount that they'll minimize when you ask them how much they use. It's pretty typical. Okay. And again, you went through the text messages. Did you see anything in the text messages attributable to the phone number that apparently is Ms. Boone's when the recipient is either George or George's brother Mo, M-O-I, short Moses? And I think describing George in a poor light and saying bad things about George. Yes, and there are times when she's, even texting George and cursing, and I said putting him down. Did George ever, we're attributing, who's using these handheld devices any particular time, and we don't know. But in any of those text messages that appear to be attributed as being sent from George, did he ever respond and retaliate and speak with the same tone and the words that she did? No, not that I recall. Okay. Did she in those text messages ever threaten the process of arrest if he or members of his family did not do as she wished? I think... And again, if you don't know, then that's fine. Yeah, I don't recall specifically. I think there may have been like one incident where that was brought up, but I don't recall specifically who was involved in that conversation. And as far as controlling identification papers, one spouse or partner doing that to one another, destroying things of value such as identification papers, is that a component of control that you can see in an abusive relationship? Yes, absolutely. I don't think I have any other questions. Mr. Owens, do you have any other follow-up? Yeah, Dr. Werner. Those are good questions by the prosecutor. I've asked some questions. Those are good questions by the prosecutors, and I've asked some questions. Okay. Oh, I have some questions. I think. A little confused about that. Redirect examination by Mr. Owens. Is there anything else you can think of that we have not touched on the stand, and that in your mind? Wait a second. Is there anything else in your? Is there anything else that you can think of that we have not touched on the stand that stands in your mind that maybe you need to testify to here today to let us know every potentiality? Of course, we want to know everything, the good, bad to ugly. So is there any other catch-all maybe that he forgot to mention, I forgot to mention, that you feel like is somehow relevant, material, and important to this case? Not as I sit here today, no sir. That's all the questions I have. Thank you. Everyone says thank you. Mr. J, again, if you have a follow-up thoughts based on reviewing your notes and kind of having time to settle in and doing that, even though you work a tremendous amount of hours, please let me know so I can let Mr. Owens know. Again, that wasn't done. Gainesville is where University of, where Florida is. Oh, okay. Hi, lady. How are you doing today? How's it going? Hello, Turbo. Hello, good guy. Hope you guys are doing well. The witnesses, absolutely. Mr. J. Also, I know that I just received Dr. Harper's deposition while we're starting this deposition, so I will get that transcript to you, and then when I get Dr. Brandon's, I will get that to you. So if you formulate new opinions that you have not already told Mr. Owens about regarding what they said, then please let me know. Yes, absolutely. We'll likely have this conversation about that, so that we'll know those things. All right. Do you want to proofread or waive your proofreading your deposition? I'll read. Thank you. All right, Madam Court Reporter, email address. Yes, complies. Email address exchange. And when do we end? 2:56 p.m. for the deposition. What else we got here? I think that's it. All right, this is a deposition that was provided by Mr. Owens, Sarah Boone's defense, in regards to the deposition of Dr. Werner. And again, Mr. Owens had issues with Dr. Werner because she was supposed to take some time, look at her notes, and think about what Sarah Boone is diagnosed with or not diagnosed with, and then render, give her opinions to Mr. Owens after she told the state prosecutor. That never happened. Mr. Owens felt like he was being kind of, what's the word that he used? What did he use? It's like a surprise attack again. Surprise attack. There was a word that he used. Ambush? Maybe it was ambush, maybe? He felt like he was ambushed by Dr. Werner's testimony, and he was not very happy with that. And you know what? I get it. Like, during the deposition, he's taking the deposition, and she's like, I took the deposition. I talked to Sarah Boone like 2 to 3 days ago. I need to look through my notes. I haven't had time to think about whether or not she, qualifies for this, and what she suffers from this, right? And Mr. Owens is probably like, okay. All right. And so he was promised that if she had new opinions, that they would reach out. My thing too was, would it also be the defense's? I know it's like, I don't know. At the end of the day, is it on them also to reach out to the state, to Dr. Warner, be like, hey, by the way, it's like the eve of trial. Have you rendered any new opinions yet that you have not given me at the deposition? Or for defense, is it better just leave it in the prosecution's court, and then if they fail to provide you the information or reach out to Dr. Warner to follow up with that, and then she testifies something differently, then maybe it's a good chance for you to try to ask for a mistrial. I don't know, discovery violation. I don't know, like, what's the best course of action when you're the defense? Is it better for him to just have followed up to make sure? Or just be like, yeah, just leave it in the state's court, sandbag, ambush. Oh, man, Sarah Boone. What an interesting one. Sarah Boone. What an interesting one. Hi, Addie. How are you doing today? No way she's getting a new trial. I don't think so. I think the best argument that Mr. Owens has was with Dr. Warner. But, it seems like that was already remedied during trial. Let me refresh this then. Give me a second. Let me refresh. Records. Sarah Boone. What other cases are you guys following right now? There was some action with Karen Reed, appellate stuff this week. I think it was yesterday. And then today, Koberger stuff. Delphi trial happening right now. I think jury's probably going to deliberate soon, right, in Delphi? Closing arguments. Motion for new trial. Let's see. Motion for new trial. So we've already read through this. If you guys missed it, feel free to rewind it back to the beginning of the stream. One was the trial court erred in holding the defendant was not entitled to a court-appointed counsel. Yeah, I know. No. I feel like we already went through that. Not granting the continuance. Deny a motion for a new trial due to the emotional outbursts. She left the courtroom. Yeah, I think this was one of the major issues. The court erred in allowing the opinion of a state's expert not previously disclosed. But shit happens, sometimes mistakes happen and you gotta roll with it. But maybe that was like the strongest argument that he had. Prosecutor committed misconduct by using rebuttal argument to make a second closing argument. That one I'm not really sure about. But he didn't object to it when it was happening. Not that I know of. But let's see what happens. The state's going to reply, and then we'll wait for the judge to make his ruling. And then, less than a month, in about 1, 2, 3, about 3.5 weeks, we'll be back to look at Miss Sarah Boone's sentencing to see if she'll, she's looking at minimum 22 years, max life in prison. We'll see what happens. Someone mentioned that in Florida, you're not there's no such thing as parole. I'm like, what? Really? No parole? I don't know. That's what someone says. We'll see. All right, guys. So I am going to, edit this video, and then I'm going to go back and do my Delphi research stuff, because I think the Delphi case is very, very interesting. I'm super sad that it's not live stream. But, maybe in the future, maybe we'll have the audio recordings of the court proceedings. That'll be nice to have. I don't know if we will, though. But I'm going to do the Delphi stuff. I mean, I don't know. You guys should check out the Delphi stuff. It's crazy. The Delphi stuff is wild. Owens. Oh, Mr. Owens. You know what? Mr. Owens is probably just when he got the verdict, even though he didn't win the case, at least he's done for now. Done for now. Go back, opening his practice back up, and hopefully showing up on court TV and Law and Crime. But we'll see Mr. Owens again on December 2nd. All right, guys. All right, y'all. That's it for today. I'm going to get up and stretch and put some ice on my back and go lay down really quick, and then I'll edit, and then I will see you guys soon. I do want to start covering the Idaho murders again, and then I think I'm just gonna all the stuff that happened this week, I'm just gonna watch my own, like the Karen Reed stuff and the Koberger stuff. But for future proceedings, I do plan on covering them. I gotta read up on the case again and be more familiarized with it. So many details that I forgot. Bye, Nicole. Have a good one. Bye, Taxi. Bye, Christine. Bye, Green Eyes. Have a good one. Bama Green Eyes. Hope you have a good day. Bye, Rachel. Books with Sarah. Ken Meister. Go Lucky. And then, I started this new game. They don't sell it at GameStop, but it's a Crayon Shin-chan game. It's so cute and relaxing. I've been playing that in my side time. It's just so cute and relaxing. Bye, Carolina. Yes, the Delphi stuff is crazy. I definitely, I definitely want to cover that. But if you guys are not watching the Delphi stuff right now, I've been watching WTHR's coverage on that. They do about maybe 50 minutes a day. Andrea Burkhart does long streams on that. Check that out. Now, 5 hours might look intimidating, but I think half the stream covers the trial. And then if you speed it up 2 times speed, it's not that long. It's not that bad. And then I want to check out, there's another YouTuber that's also covering it. I haven't checked her YouTube channel yet. And then, just to get some other opinions, I watched a Nancy Grace video, and that was very interesting. But if you guys have any other content creators you guys recommend, feel free to put them in the Discord. But those are the main, those are some of the ones that I've seen so far about it. Yeah, I have a Discord. Feel free to join the Discord if you like Addie. Join the Discord if you like. Discord. Also, I moved my vlogs on the second channel now. I used to have vlogs on this channel. It's on the second channel now, so feel free to check it out if you guys want to. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Game? It's so cute. It's this game. It's just like a little chill game. Shin-chan Shiro of Cold Town. This game right here is so fucking cute. It's so adorable. Hello? I don't know if I'm gonna get copyright for the music, actually. I might be copyright for the music. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find the image of this. Wait, this game is on Steam? Oh, I really play on my Switch anyways. Anyways, it's such a cute game. It's Crayon Shin-chan. It's a Crayon Shin-chan, and then Shiro is his dog. My dog's name is Shiro. We have things in common. Yeah. And he's he's a troublemaker. This is my childhood TV show I would watch. But yeah, I'm playing this right now. It's so cute. You could do farming stuff, you do a little bit of fishing, you catch bugs, and you make delicious meals, food. It's just my chill game. It's just my chill game. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Again, thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for the super chats, the super stickers, and I mean honestly, just thanks for just being in the chat. Thanks for having me in the background. Thanks for talking to us, and thanks for being chill, guys. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a good one. Take care, and I hope you guys will watch all the other coverages, all the other cases that we're going to be covering in the future. And you know, there's some other cases that's like we're like pending. It's like kind of like wondering what the hell's going on with some of these cases. If some of it's going to go to trial or not. I don't know. Waiting for Donald Adelson, Alexi Treviso, and we'll see.